Yo, what's up, everyone? Hope everyone's having a good day. I hope it's a good day for everyone. How are all of you? Please make sure you're smashing the like button, smashing the like button, sharing the live, doing the things that you need to do to make sure we get out to the people that we need to get out to. We are live on multiple platforms today. We are live on TikTok. We're live on YouTube Shorts, and Kick. We switched over to Kick. Why am I so freaking bright all of a sudden? I don't know what's going on there. That's no, that's too dark. I'll just leave it where it is, I guess, for now. Yeah, so today we're going to continue on the topic. It's Wicca Wednesday, so we're going to do the abortion topic because these witches just be burning their kids alive, which is just crazy. Just crazy work out here that they're doing that. Why do I feel like I'm forgetting something? Can you all hear me? Yeah. I'm unmuted. I just have this sinking feeling I forgot to do something. Like that smash button. I just got this sinking feeling that I'm just like, I forgot to do something. Completely just out of my mind. Forgot to do it. What is it? It's gonna drive me nuts. It's gonna drive me nuts until I figure it out. Bro. What is going on? What is going on? The title? No. Go bald, 10 grand. Drop 10 grand super chat right now. I'll do it. I will do it. Let's do a quick prayer and then we'll get going, and maybe it'll come back to me later. Lord, thank you for this day. Thank you for the blessings. Thank you for the opportunity to do these lives. Lord, this is a different subject. It's a difficult subject. So if it's not a subject that you think is something that we should do, let us know and make that clear. If you want us to focus more on people's hearts and bringing them into the kingdom, make that clear. That's something we should do. But if you want us to attack these evils, these horrendices that happen on this planet, make that clear on something that you want us to do. We ask that you take this live and you do what you will with it, and that you just guide us and allow the Holy Spirit to move through us and correct us if we do anything that is not of you. I ask this in Jesus' name. Amen. In the name of the Father, Son, the Holy Spirit. All right, guys. So like I said, today's topic is abortion should be illegal. Prove me wrong. When in taco, only exception, mother's life is on the line. I got to put that up there because it's the only question they ever ask. What if somebody's going to die? I bet you $1 million. The first question anybody asks when they come up, what about grape? What about grape? What about that? Huh? What about grape? Let's talk about the grape. The grape that the 1% go through. But we're not going to talk about the 99%. People just want to do what they want to do. Let's talk about that 1%. If you want to join, the link is thetinyurl.com/BigJohnST. For some reason, someone stole the steal, and so I can't use it anymore. So now it's Big John ST. It is what it is. It is what it is. Link is in description if you want to join, or if you're watching on Shorts, if you're watching on Shorts, it's in the description. If you're watching on YouTube, it's in the chat. If you're watching on TikTok, you can click the multi-guest button. All options to come up. And there's one more thing I wanted to say, but I completely forgot it. Pray, I guess. I don't know. I have this sinking feeling. I just forgot something, and it's driving me nuts. It's driving me nuts. What did I forget? I mean, my video is all backwards in this thing. I could fix that. Maybe that's it. I don't know, bro. There's this sinking feeling I got. Sinking feeling. It's gonna hit me, and it's gonna drive me nuts until I get it. All right, let's bring up a guest. Kermit the Frog. Hello, how are you? And just real quick, how old are you?
I'm 29.
All right, bro. Abortion should be illegal. Prove me wrong. When in taco, only exception, mother's life's on the line.
Well, actually, I was hoping you could help me with my faith because I actually lost it, and I wanted to ask if you knew any evidence of that I could look at for the resurrection and or divine intervention that would prove God to be real.
It's not the topic today.
Okay, maybe some other time.
Yeah, but I could just point you at some books. Like you could start with like Gary Habermas's books. You can go, Can We Trust the Gospels? Right, if you just want to read some books and get some data. But it doesn't sound like it's a data issue. Probably sounds
Yeah.
like it's a heart issue. And I'd say just turn to prayer.
All right. Well, thank you.
No problem, man. We talk again Friday. That's when I'll do
All right.
this for you.
All right. Have a good one.
All right, man. God bless. Mitchell Brickham came with $2. Says, "Take my money. I'm going to work."
Money, 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 money.
Thank you, Mitchell. Enjoy your day at work. Hello, how are you? And just real quick, how old are you?
Hey, I'm good. How are you? I'm 25.
All right, abortion should be illegal. Prove me wrong. When in taco, only exception, mother's life is on the line.
Um, yeah, it shouldn't be illegal. It should be a woman's choice.
Okay, I'm not convinced.
But why?
Well, that's not an argument. That's just a statement.
No, but that's what I'm saying. Like, it should be a woman's choice. I can see how you can judge it, but it should be a woman's choice. And maybe there should be certain protocols, which I think we both agree on.
Still not an argument. It's just a statement, right?
No, it's not because I guess one of my arguments is I'll use TikTok language is
Mm-hmm.
something that isn't addressed from both sides is the common culture in the Western society of incest relationships.
In Wincest? Okay, so simple question is if we learn that someone was born of Wincest, can we unalive them?
No,
Okay.
it should depend on the mother, especially with the trauma that she had endured. Because
Well, hold on,
I
hold on. So this child is
sorry,
already born. You think that she can unalive their own child?
no, no, if it's not born yet, if it's
Okay,
still
so
capable
yeah,
of being
yes, yeah.
not
So
born.
yeah, so I'd simply say if we cannot unalive the born child, we should not be able to unalive the one in the womb. So giving these like crazy circumstances of incest or grape or anything like that, we cannot do it to a living person. We shouldn't do it or sorry, if we cannot do it to a born person, we cannot do it to a person in the womb.
I know, but what I'm trying to tell you is like, why should the woman endure that trauma? Because I feel like that's something you're not addressed. You just water it down like, well, I mean, let's move on from the trauma.
we shouldn't unalive people for the sake of other people.
But I'm talking about like, for example, like tonight, if that event happened, I'm talking about not because you always think to the extreme. Of course you do. What I'm talking about is an an AB where it's still there's no fetus.
What?
So, for example, right now, this type of logic you have, like, oh no, no, the baby should just be born. The baby should just be born, right? Why? How come you don't have this type of logic or energy with me pulling out or me using like a condom, for example, right?
Uh, yeah, it's simply because that is not a distinct human being. It's a part of a human being.
How I'm pulling out?
Yeah, because the sperm is not a distinct human
Look,
being.
no,
It's a
for real,
part
I'm
of a
not trying
human
to be funny.
being.
Like me and my fiance for 5 years, I pull out 5 years, right?
Okay, because it's
So,
not again because
how come you don't?
you're not
But how
ending a
come you don't
human
have the same energy towards me and my fiance?
because you're not ending a human life.
Yes, I am. I'm pulling
No,
out,
no, you're not because that is a
and it's
part,
hard. You know how hard it is.
bro,
I'm pulling out, bro.
bro. Did you do like basic biology?
Yeah. So what
Okay,
happens
so
when I don't pull out?
when does human life start?
When I don't pull out,
When does human life start according to biology?
when the sperm reaches the egg.
Right. So what does pulling out have to do with anything?
Because when I pull out, that sperm will never go to that egg, will it?
Correct.
Right. So, so I have that same energy, right? Because what happens when I don't pull out, right?
Okay, again,
I,
when
I,
does human
I
life
be,
start?
I'm not trying to be vulgar here, but I be in there, and then there, what happens? It's cancer.
when does human life start?
When the sperm reaches the egg.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, just think about it, my friend.
What do you mean? Just think about it. It makes no sense.
So human life starts when sperm hits the egg,
Yeah.
right? So if you're if the sperm never hits the egg, then what?
Yeah, but I'm pulling out. What happened?
You've
That's not
mentioned that.
natural. I'm
You've
pulling
mentioned
out.
that.
That's like saying that's another if you want to be technical about it, that's another source of birth control, and you know it. And you know birth
Yeah,
control is
yeah.
all about it's against our religion. I'm Catholic, so
Birth control is perfectly fine by me.
no, but not against our religion. It's not with our religion.
That's fine. That's your own thing.
What do you mean? See, you pick and choose what you want. Right now, you're like, oh, I'm busy. Like, I'm gonna check my emails, but you know what? It is what it is with my religion. But then with other topics, you're like, oh no, let me pull out chapter Austin 3:16 here, and then blah blah blah. Like,
So
I'm telling you,
do
right?
you have an actual argument?
I'm telling you my actual argument
What's your
about
argument?
the incest relationships, that's something that you don't care about and don't address the trauma women go through. And then not
I
only
didn't say I
that,
didn't care
you
about
don't
it.
have the same energy if I pull out.
Yeah, again, because again, when does human life start?
If I didn't pull out.
No. When does human life start?
Okay, so Big John Steele,
Yeah.
I've been with my fiance 5 years.
Yeah.
And I have a healthy relationship with her. So this is not an American relationship where it's maybe once a week, twice a week, right? Or we have to plan it. Me and her, you know what I mean? It's really healthy. What happens in those 5 years if I didn't pull out?
You would not end up pregnant.
You said what?
You wouldn't end up pregnant. Or if you didn't pull out, you'd end up pregnant. Just real quick, Blue True Seeker came in $2, says, bro just seems to want to flex about his pulling out game.
No, I feel like a lot. I mean, 5 years, it's kind of a flex. Me and my fiance do joke around that, like I am the pull-out king, but it's really common for guys, I think, and I think everyone knows that. Which I don't encourage, by the way. We shouldn't encourage that, but you know what I mean. You just said it yourself. If I didn't pull out these 5 years,
All right, I had to, just real quick, guys, I had to change the link. So this is the new link now, Big John STE. That is what it is. Hopefully that works. Let me know if it doesn't. Anyways, I'm still waiting for an argument.
I'm telling you the argument right now. You just said if I didn't pull out, my fiance would be pregnant, right?
Right.
So I'm avoiding life. I'm killing life by pulling out.
You're making you're not ending a life. You're just
Yes, I
not
am.
starting one.
What?
You're not starting one.
Exactly.
When does you've already said it like 10 you've already said it like 10 times.
Boom, pull out, boom.
When does life start?
If I didn't pull out, which you just confirmed.
It's at conception. Yeah. So you're not
So
ending a life. You're
if-
just not starting one. That's
Come
very
on, let's
different.
use common sense here. When I pull out, I'm not freaking 6 minutes like, all right, let me get 5 minutes here. No, I'm pulling out fucking.
Okay.
just like-
okay. So let me ask you, what's
Tyree
the difference between me unaliving a newborn baby and just pulling out? What's the difference?
That what you just said. If I didn't pull out and I
No, hold on. What's the difference between me unaliving a brand new born baby outside of the womb versus me not pulling out then? If we're going to use your logic.
Schmurder?
Yeah. What's the difference? You can't end a life that hasn't started. Gabriel came in with $2. Amen.
Yeah, but I'm not comparing an actual baby coming out of the womb, am I? This is where I'm telling you. You
Right.
always
And so again, my argument is if you can't
And then
do
you
it to a
confuse the
born
viewers
baby,
here, and then the viewers
if
eat
you
it
can't
up.
do
like,
it to if you can't do it to a born baby, you shouldn't be able to do it to a baby in the womb. This is my argument.
So answer this: should men be able to pull out?
Yeah.
But we shouldn't do abortions.
Correct.
I mean, sorry, AB. Sorry. ABs?
Yeah, you can pull out, but you should not end another human life.
But I am by pulling out.
No,
which
you're
you
not. You know you're not.
No, and I know.
When does
I know
you've
just laughed. I
said
know
it?
it's
You
kinda-
said it 10 times, bro. Human life starts at conception. So if there's no
No.
conception, you're not ending a human life.
But this is where you're tricking your viewers. This is where you're like being all technical.
No,
and
I'm
fancy
not
with the
tricking
word.
nobody, bro.
But
No one here is tricked. Nobody here is confused. The
But
only
you know the
person
difference
confused
how
in
we
this
talk.
conversation is you.
No, but you know the difference in how we talk. If there was the whole world listening to us right now, more people in the world will listen to me and understand me because I'm talking very simple and black and white. What I'm telling you is, which you're
Okay, so let me just
You're not
take your same logic. Can I unalive a newborn baby versus is
Why are you saying
unaliving a
newborn?
newborn baby
Hold on.
the same as pulling
compare
out?
this. Hold on, compare this.
Well, answer my
Pulling out-
question. Answer my
pulling out-
question.
No, hold
Answer
on.
my
Compare
question.
this to
Linda,
pulling out.
listen.
Classic. I love
Answer
that.
my question, please.
That was good times back in the day.
Answer my question, please.
Yeah?
Is pulling out the same as unaliving a newborn baby?
No, not a newborn.
Okay, so then why is it the same as unaliving someone who's in the womb?
No one said that. What I'm trying to tell
Okay,
you
so
right
then
now.
why are you using it as an
You're not letting me
analogy?
respond. You know why. You know why.
Why are you using it as an analogy? I've literally let you speak
Alright,
for
let me
so long.
respond.
I was
You know
letting
why
you.
you're not letting me respond?
Everybody always gets
Don't
so
drop me,
upset that I
please.
cut them off. I literally let you speak for like 5 minutes
No,
straight
no, I'm
while
not
I fix
upset.
my
You know I'm not
URL.
playing victim. That's something I don't.
You
know
are
I'm not
playing victim. You know
No,
why
I'm
you
not.
won't
You
let me
know
speak
that.
because I'm gonna cook you, bro. I tell you what.
No,
How long do you need to speak? You
now
can
you're
cook me.
projecting. Now
How
you're
long do you need to
projecting that I'm
speak?
gonna do
How
that.
long? How long do you need to speak?
Now you're projecting I'm gonna do that. I didn't say that.
Listen, Linda. How long do you need to speak?
Give me 10 seconds.
All right, go ahead.
that you shouldn't compare what I'm saying to a newborn. What I'm saying is, for example, me pulling out to, for example, a woman finding out through a incest relationship, right, that she's 2 months pregnant, right? Why don't you start comparing it to that, or have that kind of common sense instead of, hear me out. Is pulling out the same as killing? Murdering a newborn baby? Like what? Why do you always
Because
gotta
it's
take it there,
okay.
bro?
So
Use common sense here, man.
I'll answer your question. It's not
I even from
analogous.
the
That's
beginning
why.
said let's. I think it should be legal, but with certain protocols.
Right. So to answer your question is because it's not analogous. Aviator came in with $2 says pulling out prevents a life. Abortion ends a life. Hold on, guys. Everybody who's in the VDO
What?
right now, I just got to I got to do something. I might lose you. You might have to jump back in.
Nah, you know what you're doing, bro. But thank you for having me on.
Doing what? I'm not even kicking you, bro.
I'm
I
just
wasn't
happy
even
everyone.
talking to you.
I'm just happy everyone knows El Salvador. That's
Everybody
something I've
knows
heard
what?
in the chat. I'm glad
Knows
everyone
what?
knows El Salvador. El
Knows what?
Salvador. El Salvador.
What is that?
I don't know. The chat keeps saying and calling that out.
Who? What are you talking about, bro? All right. God bless. Mm-hmm. How are you guys joining with cameras? That's the thing I'm trying to fix is so you can't join with a camera. I have it turned off. Guest joins with no camera. Muter can unmute. That's the thing I'm trying to fix. Can I get somebody to try this real quick? One of my mods, if that's okay. See if it works. I'm gonna be so upset if it doesn't. I'm gonna have to redo it all again. That'd be so annoying. Okay, I got someone in, but no mic. There we go. Yeah, all right. Jaguar, what's up, bro? I can't hear you. Hold on, that might be a me issue. Audio. There we go. Yeah, that was a me issue. Okay, I can hear you now. What's up, bro?
No, good.
How
Assalamu
how
alaikum rahmatullah.
how are you turning your camera on? Because it shouldn't have the option.
I don't know, bro.
It
You want me
has
to
the
turn it off?
No, it's fine, but it just shouldn't have the option. I might have to reset this and do it again.
Yeah,
All
when you
right.
log on to the website, it has like two links. It says I can show my screen or my picture. I just put the picture. I don't care. Remotely.
Okay. All right. I'll fix it later. Jacob Nathaniel came in with $2. Says, is self gratification also murder? No. All right, bro. Abortion should be illegal. Prove me wrong. When in taco, only exception mother's life is on the line.
Only when the mother's life is on the line.
Yeah.
No, I think it should always be legal. The reason why I think it should always be legal is because no matter what, the repercussions when you go on Judgment Day, whether it's legal or not legal, it's still the same. And I'm Muslim. We believe that if you take one life, it's like taking all of humanity. So I know personally women who've had abortions, whether it's legal, and they're still living with those repercussions, those conscious, the
Okay.
decision that you make. And
Okay.
so
So
no matter what,
you think we should legalize it because at Judgment Day they'll have punishment?
th- yeah, they're gonna have to live with those
Yeah.
consequences,
Okay. So should
whether
we
they
legalize
make the
murder?
choice or not.
Should we legalize murder?
And,
Just real quick, Aviator
no,
came in $5. Says, so this Catholic is committing a mortal sin and bragging about it. I bet his priest doesn't know, or he wouldn't give him the Eucharist. All right,
one
yeah. So
thing
should we
that
legalize murder?
for me, I'm a veteran, so for me, it has been legalized. You just have to raise your right
Right,
hand,
right.
and
Hold on.
then
You're
you
not.
can go and
You're kind of dodging the question, right? Should we legalize it? Should we like make all across wherever
make it.
country you're living,
I
make it
want it to
legal?
be like the Wild Wild West, brother. Like those old days where we could just come around, we'd have swords, and if you say something wrong, hey,
So
slice and
you
dice,
just want to remove all law completely?
No, 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 no. We have laws so that you can follow them. Okay? Now, if you want to go do certain things, that's on
Okay.
you and the good Lord. But if you don't want to follow the laws, hey, there's going to be
Okay, so
repercussions.
yeah, so I don't understand your argument then, right? Should we or should we not have laws?
Of course.
Okay, so should we have laws that we shouldn't murder people?
We have commandments that
All right,
oversees
I
those
appreciate
laws.
your
So,
time, bro. You're not arguing in good faith. All right, I think I'm gonna have to reset my link here. So I apologize if anybody was waiting. I'm gonna have to make a new one again. So just bear with me. Chat, entertain yourselves with each other. Talk to each other for once, because it's weird that you guys don't want to talk to each other and you only want to stare at my face. Mint Silver Tea came in with 9.99. I can't believe I have to super chat to say this, but a period and a singular sperm cells are not alive. It takes two to tango. There is no possibility of only one creating a human. Yeah, amen. Okay, now customize. We are going to ask for display name, show display name. Oh, let's go back. I forgot to do one thing. Just bear with me, guys. Bear with me. Listen, I can't have people have the option to bring up video. I really can't. Because people have posted some things that I will never ever get out of my mind, and I just do not want to see that again. So I apologize for the delay here. Just bear with me. Eric came in with $5, says Surah 532 only talks about the Jews when taking life is like taking all of humanity. Here's Heather ignorant of life. Yeah, so I can't, it's too much of a risk. And so I really need that setting turned off. Like I said, I've seen some things now that I will never, for the rest of my life, will haunt me because people just put it up and I just don't want to see that at all ever. Muted. Director gonna mute. Guest joins with no camera. Good. All right. Link copied. Now I just have to repost that link. So I'm gonna have to make a new URL. My URLs. Edit. Why won't it let me edit my URL? That's so stupid. It's so stupid. You can only make it once, and then you have to make it again and again and again and again. Okay. We'll delete that. Remove from lists. Okay. Shorten URL. No. Okay. Shorten URL. No. Okay. Dang, bro. Okay. Let's just make sure that works. Yeah, it seems to work. Good. All right. Again, guys, I apologize. It's just too high of a risk. Like I said, once we get Abby working, she'll be able to do these things for us. And she will be able to set this all up in the background while I continue to chat and have conversations. But right now I'm a solo dolo type of guy. So please. Yep. Good. Okay. And then just one more thing I need to change. And then we're good to go. Once again, I apologize for the inconvenience. Now it's Big John Stee. Big John Stee, no L. If you want to join, tinyurl.com/Big John Stee. So silly. So silly. All right, let's bring up the next guest. Again, guys, if you want to join the conversation, you can click the link pinned in the chat. You can click with the multi-guest button. Please make sure you're smashing like, sharing live, doing all the things that you need to do. And we are no longer live on Twitch because Twitch is just not growing. So we've now switched over to Kick as well. Future Ghost, hello, how are you? And just real quick, oh, I got to enable my thing. There we go. Future Ghost, hello, how are you? And just real quick, how old are you? Oh. Mint Silva Tea. My goodness. Hold up. I can't. Wow. Lord, why are you doing this to me today? Why are you doing this to me? Why? I can't hear anything they're saying. Now all of a sudden. I can see your thing. There we go. There we go.
Hello?
Now I can hear you. My goodness, that was
Hello?
frustrating. Yes, I can hear you now. Can you hear me?
Okay, cool. Hi.
Hi.
Okay, where do I begin? Okay.
Real quick, how
Um,
old are you?
18.
All right, bro. Abortion should be illegal. Prove me wrong. When a taco, only exception mother's life is on the line.
Okay. First of all, people generally agree that life starts at fertilization, not conception. That was one thing. When a sperm cell enters the egg, that's generally when they agree that life begins, because from that point on,
What's the difference
without
between
external
fertilization and
intervention,
conception?
well, because at that point, without external human interference,
Well,
generally
what's
speaking,
the difference between fertilization and
oh,
conception? Can you
sorry. Okay.
clarify, please?
So fertilization is when the sperm enters the egg. Conception is when the fetus starts to develop and gets like a brain and a heart and stuff.
No,
right?
there's no.
So,
Can you give me a singular source that says conception is when it starts to get a brain and a heart?
Hold on.
Jesus Christ, it's WL came in with $10. Says Anti Amélie Balui, the French sentence known as "For this work on the abortion pill." RU 486 was born to Jewish parents in Strasbourg, France. He was born Emily. I'm not sure what you're saying, but thank you for the $10. I have to look into that. I think I know what you're saying.
Okay, sorry. It's not when they develop a heart. It's when like the embryo begins to form.
That's fertilization. So conception and fertilization are synonymous.
Okay. Yeah. So basically, the reason why I think abortion should be legal is that people are generally not against having. How do I put this? If you have a child, that's like a lot of responsibility, and it's a lot of financial and and I think we can all agree that the adoption system of today is not perfect. Like
it's actually really
the foster
good.
care system
The adoption system is actually really, really good. Almost every child that gets put into the adoption system gets adopted. It would be children that are already like older. They are getting put in foster care. Ones that are being taken away from the parents due to neglect or abuse or something like that. That's a problematic system. But we can't abort those children, right?
Right.
Hello?
Hello. Yes. Sorry.
Sorry, just real quick before you go. Tribute Center came in 499. Says conception is when it implants into the uterus. Fertilization is when the sperm meets the egg. Love you, John.
Okay.
Love you too, bro.
Yes. There we go. Yes. Right. I don't know. I'm gonna be honest. I was gonna come in and like clarify some things about the pro-life side, because I saw a bunch of people in the chat saying a bunch of like random incorrect stuff. But
yeah, if you want to chat with the
should
chat,
I be arguing?
If you want to argue with the chat, if you want to argue with the chat, you can go back to the chat, right?
All right, I'll go back to the chat. All right.
Cool. All right, man. Appreciate you. God bless. I think that's fair. Future Ghost, hello. How are you? And just real quick, how old are you?
Hi, I'm good, man. How are you? I am 29 years old.
All right, bro. Abortion should be illegal. Prove me wrong. When in taco, only exception mother's life is on the line.
So, basically, I mean, I'm pretty much in the same boat as you, man. Like, abortion, pretty much 99.9% of the time, should definitely be illegal. Like, it's a life. Like, from the moment of fertilization, that thing is basically a potential human. So, like,
Okay.
there's no reason for you to just kill it because you don't want a child. Like, you should at least carry it to term and
Yeah.
put
So
it to
don't
adoption.
use the K word. Just for TikTok.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah. So yeah, you shouldn't terminate it just because you don't want the child. It's still a human life and all that kind of stuff. My only caveat or exception would be in the case of extreme medical condition for the child, wherein the child would be born either in extreme suffering or be basically brain dead or extremely mutilated or mutated.
Okay. If someone is born in suffering and has some sort of mutation, can we unalive them?
So it's not necessarily. Well, yeah, basically, yeah. Like,
Yeah. Okay. To what
yeah,
end? So like if I
and this
meet a
is coming from
third,
my own personal morals. Like, if I were to be
right.
born with
So if I
like
if
in
I'm
extreme pain and suffering
hold
for
on,
100% of my life,
let me clarify. If I run into a
yeah,
30-year-old, right, who's in extreme pain and suffering, can I just unalive them?
I mean, no,
Why not?
that'd be because they're. I mean, okay, yeah, that is a good point. Yeah, um, I guess to clarify my position more, it would be in the case of you know brain death, essentially. So, like, if the person isn't mentally there, you know, like if the brain didn't develop and it's just basically a meat stack at that point.
If I think if there's enough brain activity for that brain to cause the heart to pump and lungs to breathe, then we shouldn't unalive them, right? If there isn't, then they're already started the death processes and we're just not saving them.
Right. But in
Yeah.
that case, then the termination of the pregnancy would be valid.
Well, yeah. So in this situation, you're not aborting a human life. You're removing an already dead thing from a human.
Well, if it's not already dead yet, like if the heart is still pumping, but there's zero brain activity,
Well,
it's just what if it's just spinal cord activity?
if the heart is pumping, then there's enough brain activity. Right? Then I do
Not
not think we should
necessarily. It could
unalive
be
it.
just the spinal cord.
Yeah, there's enough brain activity. So there are children that are born without the majority of their brain, and they usually only live a couple years, or if that. I don't think we should unalive them. So Salty Colonel came in with $2 says abortion is taking a life to protect a lifestyle. Right? Because I don't think we would unalive them outside of the womb after they're already born. So I don't think we should do it inside the womb.
All right, that's a fair point.
Someone said in the chat, "Do I want to ban natural abortions? You mean miscarriages? No. All right, man. Is there anything else?
No, man. Just appreciate what you're doing, man. I
All right,
appreciate
bro.
the dialogue.
No problem. God bless. Mm-hmm. Okay. Lazarus. Hello. How are you? And just real quick, how old are you? I cannot hear you, bro. Nor do I see any VUs. So this one will be your end, not my end. Not sure what's going on. I'll mute you. I'll come back to you in a second. I'll give you a chance to look at it. Alex, hello. How are you? And just real quick, how old are you?
Hello. I'm doing pretty well, and I'm 18.
All right, bro. Abortion should be illegal. Prove me wrong. Winnebago. Only exceptions. Mother's life on the line.
I feel like abortion shouldn't be illegal because it creates a ton of complications in the legal system, including lawsuits over mothers who simply had miscarriages, and it's shown to not be effective in some states, actually increasing the number of abortions for those states. Some it has been very effective, others it's not.
Okay. Should we legalize murder?
This isn't murder. This is disconnecting from life support.
Yeah, I didn't say it is. I'm just saying, should we legalize murder?
No.
Okay. Why not?
Well, I wouldn't consider euthanasia murder if you have the consent of the person.
It's relevant to the question. Why shouldn't we legalize murder?
Okay, sorry, I was getting sidetracked. We shouldn't legalize murder because it's taking away the freedoms of another person unfairly.
Okay, so I argue the same for the fetus, right? So you implemented that, create some complications in the system, right? And then people still do it, if not raises. Well, it's the same with murder, right? People will still smurder and still creates complications. There are people who have gone to jail falsely accused. This happens. This is part of the legal system. So I say the same reason that we don't unalive a child in the womb is the same reason I don't unalive a child outside of the womb, is because they both have a potential future like ours.
I would say that disconnecting a child from life support is not murder. However,
we're not disconnecting it from life support. We're removing it from its natural environment, and usually in most cases you're unaliving it before you remove it from its natural environment. You're not just disconnecting it from life support. It's not analogous. So life support is like an invasive processing that's stopping the death processing. What we're doing with abortion is that we're actually inputting ourselves into its natural environment, unaliving it.
Is pregnancy not a very invasive and tough process?
Sure. Life's tough.
So should we be able to take someone else's organs to save another person's life?
No.
Or use someone to save another person's life?
No.
I would love to compare that to abortion. You're taking a mother's organs and resources and using it to protect a baby's life.
Yeah, so it's about equivalent to an apple a day as what the baby takes, which is very minuscule and very minor. So it's not as invasive as you say. But even if it was, I would argue that the child has an obligation to that resources, just like a born child has an obligation to the mother's resources. There's a parental obligation here. I can't go take something from a human because now I'm doing an invasive process that's not part of my natural processes.
So if it's a natural taking, it's okay.
Yeah, so there's certain orders that we have. So humans are ordered to certain extents, and I think there are some oughts that we can get from a way that we're ordered towards. So like I'm ordered to live on Earth, so I think I have a right to continue to live on Earth. You can't just put me on the moon.
That's true, but we already agreed taking resources from another person is illegal. Like resources like bodily organs, blood.
Yeah, I can't go take it from another person, but again, with the fetus, it's in its natural ordered state, so I'd argue that they share the resources. Very similar to the way that conjoined twins share resources.
I say the main difference between this case and conjoined twins is because one of them the mother has a lot more autonomy than conjoined twins or the fetus.
What is autonomy? What do you mean? What do you mean by they have more autonomy? How does one measure the autonomy one has?
Okay, what can a fetus do?
It can do what fetuses do. That doesn't answer the question. How do you measure how much autonomy one has?
The ability to change your situation within a society is a good way to measure it, I guess.
Okay, so somebody who's like bedridden in a wheelchair, in extreme pain and can barely operate in society, do they lose more rights?
I wouldn't say they lose more rights, but they definitely have less autonomy.
Okay, so does autonomy give one rights?
To a certain extent, yes. If I could give an example, if you are unwell to the point of you can have someone, I believe there's this case, if you're unwell, bedridden or whatever, you can have someone declared to be your arbiter or whatever and can make medical decisions.
Yeah, I can declare that for them. That's me advocating my rights. You're simply stating that somebody losing autonomy just naturally gives you less rights, right? If that's to stay consistent, it would be irrelevant whether I advocated my rights or not. I would just lose them.
I'm trying to state that the mother's rights is much more important than the baby because she has.
I know that's what you're stating, but you're not giving me a consistent reason why.
I'm trying to give you autonomy as a consistent reason, and I don't see how it's not consistent. If you could explain.
But you haven't given me a standard to measure autonomy, and you haven't consistently shown that autonomy gives you more or less rights throughout society. For example, somebody who is bedridden doesn't lose all their rights, and I can just unalive them.
But do they have someone who's bedridden? They have less ability to change things in society. They can't get out of bed. They can't get it. They can't go in person.
That doesn't take away their right to do so. They just cannot do it, right? So you could have the right to go swimming.
Less autonomy, not.
But we're talking about the person's obligations in society and what they have like the right to have, right? So you're just stating they can't go do something. That doesn't state that they don't have the right to do it.
I'm saying the mother has more right to her.
I know what you're saying, but you're not giving me an argument for why that's the case.
My whole claim, I don't know how it's not a claim, but my whole claim is a mother has more right to her body resources than her baby because she has much more autonomy and consciousness.
Okay, fine. So I'm in my house with my wife. My wife's in a horrible accident. She's only conscious for like small periods throughout the day. She can't get out of bed. She can't do anything. Do I now have more rights to the resources in our house?
I mean, at that point, you have right over medical decisions and
That's
such,
not the
which
question I
is
asked you.
resources.
That's not the question I
So
asked you. Do
yeah,
I have more
you have more
rights?
right.
Okay, so I can
You have
choose
more
to
rights
eat and
to
starve
use
her?
resources.
So I can choose to eat and starve her.
No, because she still has more autonomy than a fetus in some ways.
That's not that's you're jumping all over the place, bro. Stick to the point, right? You're saying that autonomy gives you
Sorry.
more rights. So, do I have the right to starve my wife?
No.
Why? She doesn't have the amount of autonomy I have. So therefore I have more rights. So therefore I can just choose to eat all the food and not give any to her.
I'm sorry, I got off in the tangent in my head. I you don't have the right to starve her because she is still her own person. A baby is not its own person or fetus.
Okay, cool. So how do you determine personhood?
When a baby is viable.
Okay, I'm not viable on the moon. Do I lose my personhood if I go to the moon?
I don't think this is relevant, but
You said viability gives you personhood. So if I lose my viability, if I go to the moon, I lose my personhood.
you know what? Sure. If you go to the moon, you lose your personhood.
Okay, so anybody who dives under the water for like 5 seconds has lost their personhood. So technically, if I wanted to, I could take my wife swimming, and when she dives under the water for a few minutes, I could start shooting my pew pew at her, and it wouldn't be illegal.
I mean, I feel like extraneous circumstances are the exception, not the norm.
That's completely irrelevant to what I'm saying. You're saying viability gives you personhood. So when my wife dives underwater, she's no longer viable because she's not viable underwater. So I can shoot my pew pew at her.
You can see the difference is she has your wife still has long-term viability even if she is swimming underwater. Baby who's not fully formed does not have long-term viability.
Yeah, baby has long-term viability. If it's within its natural environment, it's viable, which is the womb, and then it'll exit the womb and it'll be viable on the earth.
Okay,
So the problem is viability is location specific. The baby is viable in the womb. That's its natural environment.
So if a person is viable when they're sucking blood from you, and that's like, let's say you got a vampire that's sucking blood from you, that's their natural habitat, they're viable. What's wrong with that?
A vampire. Oh, well, so a vampire is committing assault on me in this situation, and they're also not human.
And the baby's committing trespass.
Trespass?
Trespass.
So yeah, so a baby just coming into existence in its natural environment. How's that trespassing?
Oh, it's trespassing when the mother doesn't want it. If someone's okay with you on their property, it's not trespassing.
Okay, phenomenal. So let's just keep the same logic, right? A mother has their child in the house, born, no longer in the womb, now says this child is committing trespassing, and then puts the child in a blender.
No, the equivalent would be kicking the baby out of the house, not putting them in a blender.
Okay, fine, phenomenal. They live out in the woods, right? Mountaintop. They say this child is now committing trespassing, and then throws the child out in the snow and leaves it to the wolves.
We have a legal system for that called adoption.
Yeah, let's say they're in a country that has no access to adoption, or no one's willing to adopt. So they just throw the child out into the woods. You think this is okay? The baby's trespassing.
If there's no legal avenues to get rid of it, there's still illegal abortions taking place. I wouldn't say illegal abortion's okay, but
No, it's not an abortion. The child is born. It's a 1-month-old baby. It's in the house. The mother says, you know what? I don't want this baby anymore. It's committing trespassing. Because trespassing is a crime, I'm going to take this baby, I'm going to throw it out in the snow. And, you know, if the wolves get it, the wolves get it. That's not my responsibility.
Okay, yeah, that's bad. I have a question.
Okay.
Do you
Why?
want to limit
Why is it,
access
hold
to
on.
adoption?
Why is it bad?
Because you removed, because it's alive now.
Well, it's
It's
alive in the
viable, it's
womb.
alive.
It's living. And again, viability is location specific. So again, a baby is viable in the womb.
Hey. That's why I'm saying mothers have a right to put babies up for adoption.
Okay. So then I think the same should happen for the baby in the womb.
Yeah, if the baby's viable, they get a C-section.
It is viable. It's
take it out.
viable. It's viable in the womb. And there's a parental obligation.
Time out.
So,
If it's
so for
viable-
example,
if
for
it's-
example, hold on. So, for example, if a mother wants to put their child up for adoption, but say the adoption takes 6 months, they can't just take that child and burn it because they don't want to wait 6 months or 9 months, whatever it is. The adoption process takes some time.
I'm not too informed about adoption, but I thought there were centers where you could.
Sometimes it's right away.
Um,
Sometimes it takes time. Right? It can vary.
Sure.
But in any case, if there was a world where adoption took 9 months to happen, in that 9-month period, they're like, I don't want this child anymore. Could they unalive their child?
No, I
Right.
wouldn't say for the reasons you think.
Right. So I
I
don't
would say
think
they're not allowed to do it because they have made their intent for plain adoption clear, and it's now considered government kind of. Not
well
government
that's
property.
that's completely irrelevant whether they made their they have to adopt, they have to put it up for adoption, or they have to accept parental obligation because they cannot unalive their child. So it's completely irrelevant if they made that clear. And no, they do not have the option to unalive their child. And this is basically what I'm arguing: is if you have a newborn child, you're not allowed to unalive. Then the child inside the womb, you should not be allowed to unalive. It's a simple two-step premise. I am a human that has a right to life. I used to be a fetus. Conclusion: a fetus has a right to life.
Who has more of a right to a mother's resources, the mother or the baby?
When the baby's in the womb, it's an equal rights, right? Just like conjoined twins have equal rights to the resources.
Then why do you think when a mother is in danger, it's okay to abort a fetus? They have equal rights.
Yeah, so this isn't about rights. This is about culpability. So, for example, if you attack me like let's say somebody put something in your drink that put you in a psychotic state, and you attack me. Well, you are not attacking me because you desire to cause me harm. You're in a fugue state, and you're not even in control. Even though you're technically an innocent person, I could stop you up until the point of unaliving you to preserve my own life. It's just a human instinct to try to continue to preserve your own life. It's not about a moral obligation or what's right or wrong.
Okay, I'm curious. I'm more curious about your own views. Like, to what extent? Like, if it's going to cost a person a limb, is it okay?
Can you unalive someone if you? Yeah. So this is basically what makes a mountain a molehill. I live in Canada. We have certain force laws, right? So I used to do security and things like this, and I've had to take the courses for force laws. You're allowed to use equal force up to one step above of the threat, right? And that can be very difficult to figure out what it is sometimes. So basically, if someone pushes you, you can grip them. If someone hits you, you can grab like a tool to defend yourself. So it's always one step above. But if someone pushes me, I can't pull out a bazooka. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Thanks for sharing more about your stance.
Okay. Was there anything else?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to figure out where I find the difference between a fetus and a person, and that's probably gonna
Small correction. You got to
Take
figure
my
out the
position.
difference between a person and a person. But yeah, I appreciate your time, bro. God bless and have
A
yourself a
fetus
great
and
day.
an adult. Okay. Bye. Thanks.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Fair enough. Fetus and adult. Slowy. Hello. How are you? And just real quick, how old are you?
I'm 39. I'm good, and thank you for having me up.
No problem. Abortion should be illegal. Prove me wrong. When a taco, only exception: mother's life is on the line.
I disagree. I think that abortion is legally justified use of lethal force in self-defense, and fear of death is not required to justify using lethal force in self-defense.
Well, I think it should be, right? And then I live in Canada, and that's generally the rule in Canada. For example, if someone breaks into my house, I can't just unalive them in Canada, and I actually kind of agree with this rule, unless I think my life is on the line. And I need reason to.
You can't unalive
I need reason.
Go ahead.
I need reason. Like I have to be able to prove this. So, like for example, one of the laws in Canada is if they're back, if you like pew them in the back, this wouldn't be a good look, and generally could go against you because it shows that they were leaving the premises or things like this.
Right. That's you're bringing in escapability, right? The threat. If you can escape the threat, then there's no reason to use lethal force. Where pregnancy is not escapable without intervention.
Yeah, you can escape pregnancy, but most pregnancies are perfectly fine. Of course, there's some hardship and technicalities to it, and you may struggle a bit, but vast majority of pregnancies do not lead to being unalived. If that was the case, we wouldn't have the population that we have.
Okay, so do you define a healthy pregnancy as one that leaves the mother with permanent bodily damage?
Yeah, there's always going to be some damage that happens to the body, so I'd say that's a healthy pregnancy.
Okay, so if I commit an act outside of the womb and it causes permanent bodily damage, am I innocent?
It depends on the context.
Okay, and a majority of the cases, would I be considered innocent?
Depends on the context.
Okay. The answer is no, I wouldn't be innocent. And
Well,
no matter what the context is.
You have to give a context.
You're either justified. You can either justify.
Well, yeah,
it,
if
right?
you're justified, that's
and
a
in
context.
most cases, self-defense is the only context in which you're not innocent.
Right. Well, if you say it's justified, you're giving a context. So what's the context? You have to give me like a scenario here. For example, if I'm walking down the hallway and I trip and I land on my wife, and she also trips and she hurts her elbow, am I legally culpable for her elbow?
Is that permanent bodily damage?
It depends. Maybe it hurts her elbow for life.
Okay, in that instance, no, you would not be held legally responsible.
Right. So
unless there was malicious intent, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's certain contexts that we have to look at.
Okay. Is that an external threat?
Is what an external threat?
The hurting of your wife's elbow. You were the external threat.
Yeah. So basically, you were kind of getting into the mountain. What makes a mountain a mole, or what makes a hill a mountain? What makes a heap a pile? These kind of things. Obviously, there's always going to be external threats to something. If I step outside, there's an external threat that I might get hit by a car. Right? If I go into my car, there's an external threat that the car might blow up, right? There's always some level of external threats in our lives. It's very difficult to determine when exactly we're like at a high risk and when we're not.
If you hit me with your car and it causes permanent bodily damage, are you innocent?
Depends on the context again. So for example, if you're jumping out into the street, then no, you're at fault. Like if you're just like, I'm going to jump in front of cars. I actually knew a girl who jumped in front of a car on purpose. So yeah, I wouldn't say I'd be at fault if that happened.
So you think that fault matters in this so context matters externally, right?
Well, yeah. So like I'm a virtue ethicist, right? We want to do something that is leading towards what makes one a good person, not just outcomes. Right. So outcomes, like for example, I'll give you an example on this. People would say lying is always wrong. Well, what if you're hiding Jews from Smotsies? I wouldn't say it's wrong in that scenario.
Well, it depends on what side of the fence you're on.
You think there's a justifiable reason to give over Jews to Smotsies?
Well, are you pro-Germany?
Are you?
Well, no, but I'm just saying, like, that's contextual. That's your argument has been that it's not absolute,
No. I think there's
right?
I think it's objectively wrong to hand over Jews to Smotsies.
So the people that supported
Yes,
Germany
I think they were
would
wrong.
disagree.
Of course they would disagree. Are you just arguing for subjective
Okay,
morals? Because if you're just arguing for subjective morals, you have no stance here. Because if you're going to say that all of it's just our own opinions and perspectives, then I can make an argument that as long as I convince enough people to join with me, we can literally just make women into cattle and baby making machines. And there'd be nothing wrong with that as long as enough people agreed.
Isn't that what Christianity is? Get enough people to agree?
Yeah, so that's completely irrelevant. Also shows that you're arguing in bad faith.
Okay, so
And
let's
trying
get
to
back
shift the topic.
Establishing self-defense.
Well, hold on.
Okay?
You're just ignoring my point. Are you arguing for subjectivism?
No, I would say that in the case of pregnancy,
No, hold
it is
on.
objectively bad to allow for the permanent bodily damage of a mother.
You're switching topics, my friend. So again, we use the analogy, right, of the Smittler, and you said it depends on what side you are on. Is
you
that
use the analogy?
Right, fair enough.
How does that pertain to pregnancy?
Okay. All right, man. You're not arguing in good faith. I thank you for your time. God bless. Have yourself a great day. Matthew, hello. How are you? And just real quick, how old are you?
Oh, I am 23 years old.
All right, bro. Abortion should be illegal. Prove me wrong. Win a taco. Only exception: mother's life is on the line.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to disagree with you on. That life is life, and that even when a woman's life is at risk, it's still not justifiable.
Oh, so you want to go like all the way?
Yeah.
Okay, go for it. I'm open to be convinced.
Yeah, so even if it's simply like an ectopic pregnancy, then there should be something like a surgery that's developed to save the child, because we already have surgeries to, like cosmetic surgeries where someone can move fat from one part of their body to another, or they can do a skin graft on their faces.
I would agree with you that if we could develop a surgery that would stop an ectopic pregnancy from happening or move it, we ought to do that. But we do not have the means to do that at this moment. In an ectopic pregnancy, neither will survive.
Yeah, so which is why until like it's just a horrible thing until otherwise. But then there are stories of women.
You think? Hold on. So just to be, I just want to be clear. I'll let you go, but I want to be clear. Are you stating that because we do not have the means to prevent an ectopic pregnancy, that we should let both the mother and the child pass away?
I'd prefer no. So for now, we would have to be abortion, because that's what it ultimately is going to be, an abortion of a life.
Yeah.
The ending of a life, because that's what abortion means.
Yeah. So we're on the same page.
Yeah.
Mother's
so what I
life
was
is on the line.
Next is that things where it's like a woman has, like stories of women who have like bone cancer in the leg, and then they have to either have chemotherapy or lose their leg, or same thing with breast cancer. They have to pick between either living or going through painful cancer that could end their life. I think it would be best to give the child a chance to live, even though the mother might die soon after the child's born.
Yeah, so I think this would be a difficult topic to wrestle with. Basically, when do you determine that your life is like on the line and versus not? So let's give a hypothetical. Let's say that the child will be born, but 100% chance the mother will pass away. Are they obligated to birth that child?
Yes, because they obligated into having a child, so they're obligated to giving birth to the child, yes.
Cool. All right, so are parents obligated to die for their children? Born children?
Yes.
So you think all parents are obligated to die for their born
children? Yes, born or unborn,
okay.
Yes.
Okay, so then are they obligated to give their...
because they chose to create the child, so it's their choice.
Are they obligated to give their organs to those children?
If it's like an organ transplant, not necessarily, but it would be best if they could to save their child's life.
Well, I'm talking about obligations, not what would be best, right? So for example, let's say, I have a child, my child needs a heart. We're a blood type, we're a match. Am I obligated to give my heart to that child?
No, not necessarily, because there are artificial hearts that can temporarily.
No,
help,
in a
so
situation where there's no artificial hearts, right?
then yes,
Okay, so I'd be obligated to give my heart to my child.
yes.
Okay, I think this is absurd, right? I think this kind of goes into absurdity.
Okay,
I don't
so
think I should
are
have
you
to
Christian?
unalive. Yes, yeah, I'm a Christian. Yeah,
So what are you? Are you like a Catholic, a Protestant?
I don't share my denomination.
Okay, so I'm going to presume it's non-denominational because I'm Catholic and that's what I believe.
Yeah. So just saying I'm not going to share doesn't mean I'm non-denominational.
No, it's okay because there's like people who argue about just denomination, but my point is that a parent is supposed to lay down their life to protect their
Can you show
child
me this in
and
the
do what's best for
catechism?
their
Can
children.
you show me this in the catechism where a parent is obligated to unalive themselves for the child?
Well, can you show me in your belief system where it says that a
Well,
parent
no,
shouldn't try to take care of their child
you're
to the
making
best
an
of their
appeal.
ability, but
So
to
you're
avert the
making an
child's
appeal. Sorry, you're making an appeal to an authority, right? And your appeal to authority here is the Catholic Church, and you're using the fact that I'm a Christian as I have sort of some sort of obligation towards this. So I would like to see either biblically or in the Catechism or ex cathedra that I'd be obligated to do this.
Okay, I'm confused now. So
You're making
children
an
shouldn't be
appeal. You're making
aborted,
an
but
appeal.
then at the same
Sorry.
time, there's no obligation to
You're
give
confused.
children.
You're confused. So I'm going to clarify. You're stating that as a Christian, you are obligated to unalive yourself to save your child. Obligation. Like you have to do it. It's a biblical obligation. It's a Christian obligation. And you know what? As a Christian, I probably would unalive myself for my child. I would do that. But stating it as an obligation, I would like to see that either catechism, ex cathedra, or scripturally.
Well, I'd say it's more of like a moral obligation for someone to do it. I don't know if it's in the catechism.
Okay, so
right?
then don't make an appeal if you don't know it's there.
Church teaching, but when it comes to
yeah. Okay. If you don't know it's there, then don't make a statement that if you're a Christian you have to.
Well, it's to protect your child's life and let your child live longer.
Right. So, but you cannot say that a Christian is obligated to do it because that's the way you feel. Right. If you can't make an argument from it from scripture,
to do anything.
No, that's not the logical conclusion, my friend. It's not that it's not the logical conclusion that you're not obligated to do one thing, so therefore you're not obligated to do anything. Aviator came in with $2, says his position is not a Catholic one. It's correct.
Yeah, let me before I
actually hold on. You stated your hold on, just real quick. Just hold on, real quick. You stated you're a Catholic, right?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know the actual Catholic declaration is that you can have an abortion if the mother's life is on the line?
It should be known that. Oh, yeah. You just tell me, man.
I just did.
You know it all. Just tell me.
But that is the declaration of the Catholic Church.
Sure. I'll look it up later, but let me leave before I say something like you shouldn't take it down because Protestants are just.
Where'd he go? He was going to say something and then he left before he said it. That was weird. I didn't kick him. I really didn't. He left before he said it. Where do I get that from? Well, let me actually make sure I'm not talking out of my butt. I'm pretty sure I've seen that. So. The Catholic Church stance on abortion is a grave moral evil, but also recognizes the principle of double effect, which can be applied in causes where medical procedure necessary to save a mother's life might unintentionally result in the death of an unborn child. Direction. Catholic Church teaches the directional intended abortion, whereas means or the end is always morally wrong. So in cases where the mother's life is in danger and a medical procedure is necessary to save her, even if that procedure might result in the unintended death of the unborn child, the church might consider it morally permissible under the principle of double effect. There you go. That's kind of funny though. You stupid Protestants, and then he's not even holding to his Catholic Church. And also the assumption that I'm a Protestant is hilarious. Jonah K. Hello, how are you? And just real quick, how old are you?
Hello, I'm 17.
All right, man. God bless. Appreciate your honesty. TikTok user. Hello, how are you? And real quick, how old are you?
I'm 24.
All right, bro. Abortion should be illegal. Prove me wrong. When a taco, only exception, mother's life is on the line.
I disagree with the only exception. I
Okay.
wanted to add a comment. If the mother was raped, then the abortion should be necessary at that scenario as well.
Yeah, so the reason I would disagree with this, let's imagine that a mother is raped and then she has no access to abortion and the child is born. Is she now permissible to unalive that child's life?
She has no access to abortion?
Yeah.
How doesn't she have access to abortion in
We can think
today's
of
society?
we can think of all sorts of reasons. Maybe she was stuck on a boat, stranded on an island, visiting a country that doesn't allow it, couldn't travel. There's lots of reasons.
And then she must raise the child, is what you're saying?
No. So she ends up having a child, conceived due to grape, right? And then the child is born. Can she now unalive the child because it was conceived through grape?
That's a different scenario. That's no longer abortion. That's killing.
It is a different scenario. It's called a reductio. It's meant to test your worldview to see if you're consistent.
No, I understand what a reductio absurdum is, but what I'm saying is this is a completely different scenario because this is no longer abortion. Abortion was when you unalive a child in the mother's womb, and not
I'm basically asking you
not aliving a human being.
Yes, I'm basically asking you what the ontological difference is between a child in the womb and outside of the womb to determine whether or not one we can morally unalive and the other one we can't.
I think the fetus, and I don't know like the exact state of when the child is considered, or I mean, I'm also a Muslim, so Islamically, the child gets his soul after 3 months, or the soul is blown to him after 3 months.
Define
so after
a soul.
3 months, it's no longer a soul.
Yeah, define a soul.
You want a definition of a soul?
Yes.
I don't have a definition for the soul.
Okay, so then how do you know it has it or doesn't have it?
The child.
Yeah. If you don't even know what a soul is, you don't know what a definition of it is, how do you determine whether or not
Muslims
a child
don't know the
have
definition of. Muslims don't know what the soul is.
Okay, so then how do you know
but
it
it's
does or
just
doesn't
told
have
to
a
us?
soul?
Because that's what the Islamic scripture says.
Okay, so I don't care what the
And I
Islamic
believe in
scripture
it.
says.
But you turned my point was I know I'm not going to turn this into a religious topic. I'm going to
you made an appeal
to
you made an appeal to your religion. I don't care what your religion says. It's completely irrelevant to me.
You did change the whole scenario, dude.
You
told
brought
me
it
you're
up.
going to unalive a child. Yeah, because I told you abortion should be. Do you agree that if let's change the scenario back to how it should be? If the child is in the mother's womb, so she didn't deliver the child yet.
Why is it you're
abortion,
forcing? Hold on, just real quick. Why are you forcing me to answer reductio when you won't answer mine?
I answered yours.
No, you didn't. You just said it's disanalogous.
I told you that's a completely different scenario.
Yeah, it's not disanalogous though, right? It's called trot out the toddler. I'm trying to get the ontological. See, I asked you specifically. You said, why would I ask this? And I said, I want to know what the ontological differences are. And you said, we believe in Islam. They don't get his soul until a certain point. Well, I don't care what Islam says. So can you give me the ontological differences between the child outside of the womb and the one inside of the womb?
But by this logic, if I'm not allowed to kill the child outside of the, unalive the child outside of the mother's womb, because this is considered unaliving people, then why would abortion by itself be allowed in
I don't think it should be allowed.
Any scenario, even though, so why do you think that abortion should is fine in the exception of the mother's life on the line?
Yeah, so you're just not answering my questions and throwing questions back at me. So I'll ask you one more time. If you don't want to answer, then I'm going to assume you're arguing in bad faith and I'm going to move on. What is the ontological difference between the child outside of the womb and inside of the womb where I can unalive one but not the other?
I've kind of indirectly answered you.
Indirection is not an answer I want. I want a direct answer, please. What is the ontological difference?
The ontological difference is that one is outside of the womb and the other one is inside of her.
Okay, fine. Geographic distance. Okay, so I should be allowed to unalive a child all 9 months.
Not geographic distance.
Yeah, you'd say one's inside the womb, one's outside. So if this is what's determining the value, then I should be allowed to unalive my child for all 9 months.
Oh, you confuse the shit out of me.
It's basic thinking, my friend. Basic logic.
Basic logic is you changing the scenario to where abortion is not.
I appreciate your time.
How do
You're
you
not arguing good faith. God bless. And yeah, come back when we're doing the Muslim conversation. Dexter, hello. How are you? And just real quick, how old are you?
Hi, I'm 23.
All right, bro. Abortion should be illegal. Prove me wrong. Win a taco. Only exception: mother's life is on the line.
Cool. I guess I'll start off with kind of getting a basis from your point of view. So, why do you personally, in summary, believe that abortion should be illegal?
Yeah, so it's a simple two-step premise. Premise 1, I'm a human that has a right to life. Premise 2, I used to be a fetus. Conclusion, a fetus has a right to life.
Okay. I've heard a few arguments kind of going through. Some of them kind of focus on the viability of a fetus, and then some of them on the impact on the mother health-wise. Some of them moral arguments are to do with religion. But overall, we need to look at this from an objective scientific point of view. So coming from the UK, abortion is legal here. And in fact, rulings have just been made by MPs, so that's members of parliament, so kind of similar to your government.
It's a really disgusting ruling. It says that a mother can unalive the child all 9 months and never be investigated. That's terrible.
No, so I'm gonna, obviously there's gonna be a bit of cross-cultural difference here, so you're gonna have to forgive me for that, because obviously that's what I come from, that's my background. In the UK, abortion is legal until 24 weeks, so there is a hard limit.
But if a mother, but if the mother chooses to unalive her own child by her own means, she cannot be investigated. That was my point.
So that's an unsubstantiated statement you've made. That's not based on any form of legislation or a definitive law. If you could produce that's stating specifically that no limit has been imposed on the time at which an abortion can be carried out, then I would be able to continue with.
Yeah, just real quick. Aviator came
because if we're using actual legitimate legislation.
Okay, Aviator came in with $2, says, as usual, a Muslim doesn't understand logic. Okay, bro, you need to relax and you need to take a breath and you need to let us both speak and have a conversation. All right, so to answer your question, I'm not going to produce it because I don't care to produce it because I think it's completely irrelevant to the conversation. Simple Google search, anyone can find it. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I don't care.
Okay. So what would be irrelevant to the conversation again, just to clarify?
Whether or not that legislation has gone through.
No. This is an existing legislation. This is existing as we speak on the ground right now for 69 million UK citizens.
I don't care.
Why do you not care? Why would an important legislation not be relevant to a conversation about that very thing? You said it should be illegal.
Okay.
And you said that.
All right, man, I appreciate your time. You're not going to let me speak, so I'm going to move on to the next person. Or do you want to let me answer your questions when you ask them?
I'll humor you. What do you have to say?
Okay. Real quick, Brenham came in $10, says a Muslim with a bad argument and doesn't answer questions. Never seen that before. Also, Q source includes the Lord's Prayer, so Islam is still false even if the Q source is real. God bless. God bless you too. Yeah, so the conversation here is it should be illegal, not whether it is or isn't illegal. That's why it's irrelevant to the conversation.
Okay, but the premise of the reason why I believe abortion is problematic is because there seems to be this precedent that abortion means that at any point within a 9-month period, a child can be terminated, when that clearly isn't the case. And so by confusing the original kind of premise of the argument, you are then in bad faith contaminating the arguments that can be had, if that makes sense.
No. So can you argue the point?
Okay. So I started off by saying that I want this to be an objective, kind of scientifically based argument. So if we're talking about the features of a fetus that would make it not comparable to a sentient and autonomous human being, one example of that would be neural activity and development. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with the kind of timeline of fetal development, or would you need a little bit of
I'm very familiar
data on that? Okay, so then you'll be aware that the neural tube of a fetus develops around 5 to 6 weeks. which
Okay.
only signifies the development of neurons and synapses, which in
Okay.
itself isn't a significant neurological
Phenomenal. Cool.
milestone.
Cool. So I don't know why you asked me. If I already knew, then continue to explain it. I already know. Why is that relevant?
Well, I mean, for the benefit, first of all, of the audience that you have, which I'm assuming not all of them are going to have the knowledge that you and I have. So
Can
I
you
think it's
please
only
answer the
fair
question? Why is
to
that
make it
relevant?
completely transparent to the rest of the people that are viewing this as well, just so they can understand where I'm coming from a debate point of view.
Dexter, this will be the last warning about arguing in good faith, my friend. Why is that relevant?
It's relevant because one of the major arguments that you've put across is that there is no difference between a fetus inside of the womb and a born baby.
No, that's not
no,
my
because I
argument.
do clearly remember you using an example of the moon, for example.
So I never said that there is no difference between the two, right? That'd just be ridiculous. Just like I wouldn't say there's no difference between a man and a woman, or there's no difference between a man and a child. Of course, there's some differences. What I'm talking about is a difference that gives one ontological rights to life. That's the difference.
Yeah, and there is quite a significant difference there. So before you interrupted me about my point about neurological development, the reason why that would be important is because arbitrary brainwaves that can be detected from neuronal cells is not the same as conscious, sentient, and sapient thought, which is kind of, comparable to a human being walking.
Right, okay, so can you please just give me the reason why this gives them a right to life rather than hey, they have sentience? Can you tell me why?
Well, because this life that we're talking about isn't biologically in any way the same as, for example, what would be grounds for murder or homicide in the US.
You can't say those words. I'll get banned.
Oh, okay. Yeah, my bad. So what words would you prefer, like, for me to substitute?
Anything else but those words.
Okay, so let's say unalive, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the grounds that would need to be met for a case to be defined as unaliving.
Right, so you can't derive an ought from an is. You're just stating what its current system currently has. I don't care. I'm asking, what is the difference? Why does the capacity to have sentience give something a right to life?
Because if we were to look at, for example, the neurological structure of a fly, which is an insect that the majority of people would have no issue ending the life of for the contextual benefit of an individual. So, for example, a fly is invading your kitchen while you're cooking, for example, or bot flies are harming or risking your cattle, for example, or mosquitoes, which spread malaria, for example.
Can you please answer the question instead of going on like a 2-minute tangent? No, I need you to be precise. I need you to be very precise, man, because I've let you speak for a very long time and you still haven't answered my question. Right? I've been very patient. I'm listening to every word you're saying.
In fact, you've cut me off in the middle of every point, saying that it's relevant, but with no basis for that.
All right, I appreciate your time, man. God bless. Have yourself a great day.
Okay, thank you very much.
Joseph Palacios, hello, how are you? And just real quick, how old are you?
Yo, my name is Joseph Palacios. I'm 19 years old, man. Thank you for bringing me on here. I also go by Senor Jeb, but thank you very much.
No problem. Abortion should be illegal. Prove me wrong. When a taco, only exception, mother's life is on the line.
All right. So listen, one question I have is, if abortion is murder, should people who get abortions be sentenced to prison like other murderers?
Yes.
So, okay. Now, let me ask you one thing then, yeah? How far would you... Okay, listen. Would you also prosecute the doctor, the person who drove them to the clinic, and the person who paid for it? Yep. How far does the punishment go?
Yeah, so in any state, like for example, if I was to drive somebody to go commit a murder and I knew they were going to do it, right, I'd be an accomplice. And if the doctor helped do it, they would actually have been part of this murder. And I think all three should be charged accordingly.
So, in my opinion, I think that's just a blueprint for reproductive surveillance and state control, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah, so a mechanism and a method in which it's implemented may be challenging, may be difficult to navigate, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't navigate it or try to make it operate in a way that is good and is right. But I don't think that means that we should allow the unaliving of innocent human beings because of it.
I mean, okay, so if a pregnant person is in an abusive relationship and knows having a child will trap them further, do you believe the state has the right to force them to give birth anyway?
Yeah.
Well, okay. Anyway.
Well, okay, let me just throw it back at you. Let's say somebody's in an abusive relationship and they currently have the child, and having that child, they see, oh, it's going to progressively make it worse. Can they unalive their child?
I think they just shouldn't have had a child in the first place. Which
but let's say, okay, but it's too late now. They already have the child. Can they unalive it?
No.
Okay, so what's the difference?
But there's no other option for that child, though.
What's the difference? Why can they unalive one child and not the other?
Because that child now has autonomy. As a fetus, they didn't.
What do you mean by autonomy?
Okay, well, a fertilized egg is biologically alive, yes, but so is a skin cell, by that definition.
Yeah, but a skin cell, so sorry, I'm going to correct you. A skin cell is a part of a human life. A fertilized egg is a distinct human life. That's the difference.
Okay, the real question is, does that life have the right to occupy someone else's body against their will?
Yes.
No other situation in law or ethics allows one person to use another person's body without consent.
Yeah, motherhood. This is the scenario.
So, let me ask that something.
And also it'd be like we could also look at conjoined twins.
If the government can force someone to stay pregnant, should it also be able to force people to donate blood or organs to save lives?
No, they can't do that because this is a life-saving processy, where the other one's a life-ending processy. This would be the difference. And also, it's not the simple fact of like, if X is true, then Y is just automatically true in this scenario. Because I believe we try to do what the maximally best thing and good thing is. And I think the maximally best and good thing to do is to, not end innocent human life. I don't think anybody would say it's a good thing to end innocent human life in the womb. They'd say it's a justified thing because of X, Y, and Z. And we should try to reach the most maximal good things.
Well, I think pregnancy involves forced use of the body too, just like organ donation. Even if abortion ends a potential life, the state still doesn't get to force someone's body into service. That's involuntary servitude. If consent can be overridden to save an already born child dying of leukemia, how can it be overridden?
So let's just take this. Can a conjoined twin end their conjoined twin's life?
No.
Why not?
Because that's a life with autonomy.
But they're sharing organs, and one's forced to give it to the other. If they want to advocate those rights, or if they want to revoke consent and unalive the other one, and unalive the other one, can you please let me finish? And unalive the other one, should they be allowed to do so?
There's not really. It's just that requires nuance because they're put into that circumstance. They don't really have anything to do. Like their options are very limited. Sorry, like English.
You're not answering the question.
Yeah.
So the question again is, can a conjoined twin end the other conjoined twin's life? Let's say, for example, one conjoined twin is the owner of the heart, but the other conjoined twin is sharing in the blood supply. Can one choose to unalive the other because it no longer wants to share?
No.
Why not?
Because they're already alive. They've been born. They have.
So, but you already conceded that a child in the womb is alive. That was the first thing that you stated when you came in.
So what would be wrong with killing them, though?
Unaliving.
Because now, unaliving them.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it is unaliving, what is the so-called problem here?
Yeah, you're unaliving an innocent human being.
The autonomy.
Yeah, so it's a simple two-step premise, right? I've used it before. I'm a human that has a right to life. I used to be a fetus. The conclusion of fetus has a right to life.
Okay. Can I ask you? Okay, fair, because I don't think this argument is going anywhere with you. So can I ask something? You believe that abortion should be illegal, but I believe that even if you believe abortion is immoral, I think it should still be legal, because making abortions illegal doesn't. Okay, you don't want fewer abortions. You just want them to be harder and scary and more.
So I'm not interested in armchair psychology. What's an argument?
What's the argument?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, okay. My argument is that abortions will still happen. They're just going to be more dangerous.
Cool, phenomenal. So does murder still happen?
No. My
no,
point here
murder doesn't happen. People don't get murdered.
What?
Do people get murdered? Does that happen?
People who do abortion on themselves.
I'm not talking about abortion. I'm just talking about general, normal murder. Does it happen?
Yes.
Okay.
Why?
Okay, well, it still happens, so let's make it legal.
Okay, but it being criminalized. Okay, well, if it was legal, people would still be doing it. People do abortion when they're forced into that situation. It's not something like.
People only do murder when they're forced into that situation.
So do you think self-defense is should be entirely legal?
Should self-defense should be legal? That's not murder.
What?
Murder, by definition, is the unaliving of an innocent human person, right? Self-defense is not the unaliving of an innocent human person.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, you're really annoying right now, so I'm gonna leave, buddy.
It's usually annoying when somebody's correct and you don't have an argument. Hello, how are you? And just real quick, how old are you?
I'm 32.
All right. Abortion should be illegal. Prove me wrong when a taco. Only exception, mother's life is on the line. Somebody said tax the churches. Sure, I agree. Let's tax the churches.
The only exception is if the mother's life is on the line.
Yes.
So that's okay for you?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say it's okay. Like, I don't say it's a moral good thing, but humans have the right to preserve their own life if they feel like they're going to be unalived, no matter what the cause or effect is. Or causes, I guess. Sorry.
What if the fetus's life is on the line?
Yeah, I think that's silly. We don't unalive something to prevent it from being unalived.
What if later in pregnancy it then becomes life-threatening for the mother because because the baby is developing deformed or things like that?
Yeah. So you would do you'd try to perform a medical procedure where you save both lives, and if by chance the child ends up passing away, it's a terrible tragedy. But you don't go in with the intent to unalive the child.
So I'm gonna try to figure. So you're against just having one because there's so many different. Like, I believe that if you get pregnant and you don't want the baby because of your mental health, your income, maybe you're homeless, maybe you're addicted to, substances, and you wouldn't be able to take care of that baby,
You think they should or shouldn't?
They should be. I don't even think those need to be reasons. I think
that's terrible, right? Because you wouldn't say that for a newborn child, right? You wouldn't say, "Oh, money is tight, so the newborn child we can unalive it." You wouldn't say, "I'm having mental health issues, so the newborn child we can unalive it." Basically, what I'm asking is, what is the separating factor between a newborn and the baby in the womb? If one has all the rights to life, then I think the other one has those same rights to life. So I give a valid reason why they're different.
Sentience.
Okay, so when I fall asleep, do I lose my rights to life?
What, you still have brain activity.
Okay, brain activity, just activity in general gives you a right to life.
I don't even know when a baby in the womb's brain is fully formed. Your brain doesn't even fully form until you're 25. Are you going to say that you could unalive at 25 or before the age of 25 because your brain's not fully developed?
I agree. You shouldn't unalive people just because of development of brain tissue. I 100% agree with that.
When they come out, their heads aren't even together yet. Like, they have the soft spots still. So
sure. Yeah, so I agree. We shouldn't unalive people based off their brain tissue. You're the one arguing that we should.
I don't know if I said that. I think that...
Yeah, you said brain development.
No, I said, oh my gosh. I keep wanting to say the word autonomy, but I think the woman or the pregnant person has bodily autonomy, and that's number one.
Okay, should she be allowed to abort all 9 months?
Well, abort at all 9 months doesn't mean that the baby's always going to be unalived.
Yeah, but my question still stands. Do you think she should be allowed to abort all 9 months?
Yeah, because at the 9-month mark, it's not going to end up with an unalived baby.
The word abortion implies, right, the termination. Should she be allowed to abort all 9 months?
It's the removal.
No, it's not, because then we would call it a C-section or a birth.
That's included.
It's not
Google it.
Abortion. Oh, okay, so let's Google it.
Prove it.
And
Prove it. Thank you.
Define abortion.
At all 9 months.
A deliberate termination of a human pregnancy, most often performed during the first 28 weeks of the pregnancy, and an object undertaking regarding the speaker of unpleasant. Oh no, that's a different term of it. So yeah, a deliberate termination.
At the end of the 9 months.
A deliberate termination of a human pregnancy. So the Yale Medical Center define abortion, the termination of a pregnancy before the fetus can survive outside of the uterus. That is Yale Medicine.
I don't think people that are having abortions at the end stages.
So can you answer the question, please? Should people be allowed to abort all 9 months?
Yes.
So you think they should be able to terminate their child for all 9 months?
It depends on how it's taken out of their body. Because
can you please argue in good faith? You understand the question I am asking you? Please answer the question I am actually asking you. Should a parent be allowed to unalive their child all 9 months they're in the womb?
If it's gonna hurt the pregnant person, then yes.
Okay, that's horrendous and monstrous. It's awful. That's terrible. I mean, it's consistent, but you're literally saying that, a 9-month-old child inside the womb, you could just unalive because, hey, for whatever, might hurt you a little bit.
Give me 2 seconds, okay?
Aviator came with $2, says, I'm annoyed by truth and logic. How delayed is the YouTube right now? That was a while ago. Okay, I'm going to move on. Appreciate your time.
I have a study.
A study of what?
Well, I was Googling stuff. I wanted to keep talking, but hold on. It was about the abortion and
Okay, God bless. Mads, hello, how are you? And just real quick, how old are you?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. How old are you?
I'm 19.
All right. Abortion should be illegal. Prove me wrong. When in taco, only exception, mother's life is on the line.
Okay. Okay. So your opinion on. Okay. Would you consider a fertilized egg a baby?
Yeah.
Even if you can freeze it and stuff.
Sure.
Even if you can't freeze a human.
Yeah. So it's logically possible that we'll be able to freeze humans in the future, right? We're just talking about the development of science.
No, it's not.
What do you mean it's not logically possible? I'm not saying. Hold on. Please listen to the words I'm saying. I didn't say it's possible that we could do it right now. I'm not saying it's metaphysically possible right now.
I'm talking about right now.
Right. So logically, one day.
Right now.
Hold on. Please let me answer. So logically, one day we should be able to freeze humans, right? Science has been working towards this. This is one of the reasons that we have human heads frozen and bodies frozen currently. This is why Disney is frozen. So if you're going to make that argument that we can freeze a fetus, therefore it doesn't have human life, let's say 100 years down the road. Let's say 100 years down the road, we can freeze a human, like a full-grown human. Do they all of a sudden lose the right to life?
Okay, so I'm talking about right now, and present time.
Yeah, that's fine. That's a presentism fallacy.
Okay. Well, right now.
Right, but the problem is when you're saying right now, it's a presentism fallacy.
What are you talking about? Right now,
you cannot. Fallacy.
Right now, there is no proof that you could freeze a human. In the future, we can make.
We have cryo chambers. We have cryo chambers for people.
In the future, if you can freeze a human and they will live, if you could freeze a human for infinite amount of time and they can come out living, then we can make a different argument. But right now, that is not.
So that's that's a presentism argument. That's a fallacious argument. Because you're just stating what is now is right.
Freeze a human.
Okay, so hold on. Let's use your argument about right now. Okay, I'm going to show you why presentism is wrong. Back during slavery, right? It was declared by law that slaves are only 3/5 of a person. Was that wrong?
Yes, but also
right then, hold on. Right then, it wasn't wrong.
Because. Okay, the 3/5, the 3/4 of a person back in the day in slavery gave them some kind of vote when they were being slaves. Past the time,
it's completely irrelevant. Was it right or wrong?
Obviously, terrible. That is
Was it right or
that is
wrong?
common sense.
Was it
But
right or
back
wrong?
in the day, now it would be completely wrong. But back
But
then,
was it
that
wrong
gave them some
then?
kind of vote in a terrible
Hold
situation.
on. Was it wrong then?
Yeah.
Okay, so according to them, then it wasn't wrong.
And
so
they were wrong.
Right. So this is the problem with presentism. You're saying right now we can't freeze people, so I can make a moral truth out of that. Well, 100 years
I'm
down
not
from the road, we'll be able to
enslaving
freeze people.
We're talking about freezing humans in a hypothetical
Right,
sense.
right. I'm showing
humans.
it's not an analogy.
Okay,
right? I'm not saying it's like hold on. It's not an analogy. I'm not saying it's comparable to abortion. I'm just showing you the problem with presentism, right? Because you're saying right now we can't do it, so I can make a moral truth or a moral claim. Well, if 100 years down the road I can do it and it's wrong, then it holds true that it's wrong today.
I want to continue with the baby stuff. I don't want to talk about
you made the argument that it didn't have a right to life because you can freeze it.
I'm making the argument that you can fertilize an egg and you cannot
hold on. No, your argument
it.
you're arguing in bad faith. Your argument was originally it's not a human because you can freeze it. Right?
Well, yeah, it's not a human because it's not grown. It doesn't have a brain. It doesn't have anything.
Well,
it's just a bunch
but
of
are you
fucking
conceding
cells.
that the freezing of it is completely irrelevant?
No, it's not irrelevant. It just shows
Okay,
more that
then
it's not a human
let's
because
focus on
it doesn't
that
have
then.
a brain. It doesn't have a heart.
Let's focus
it doesn't have legs.
Let's focus on that then. If I can freeze someone as a full-grown adult and they're perfectly fine, does that take away their human rights?
No, because they have a brain. They have a heart.
Okay, so the freezing is completely irrelevant, right?
No, the freezing shows that they're not a human because you
we logically can freeze humans. So if I am able to freeze a human,
okay.
This is why we have cryo chambers.
Logically, if we could freeze a human, they would still have bodily autonomy because they have a brain.
So then the freezing is irrelevant, yes?
Okay, well, let's say freezing is irrelevant.
Awesome.
Let's say freezing is irrelevant because it could be in the future, but right now, if that fertilized egg is not a human, it doesn't have a brain, it doesn't have a heart.
What species is it?
Well, obviously it is a fertilized egg from a human, but it is not a human yet because it doesn't have a brain.
So what species is it?
No brain activity. It would be a part of the human species, but it is not a human yet.
So if you're a part of a human species...
It has human cells.
So if you're part of a human species, what are you?
Well, it isn't born yet. It has human cells, but it isn't a human yet.
Yeah, but can you just answer the actual question I'm asking? If you're part of a human species, what are you? If you're Googling it, it's not going to help you, right? 96% of biologists agree that human life starts at conception.
96.
Yeah.
It's a female reproductive cell.
What is a female reproductive cell?
It's a human egg.
An egg? An egg's not fertilized.
Well, let's say it's a human fertilized egg.
A human fertilized egg.
Human reproductive cell.
Right. So just Google.
And it is the first development of human life.
Listen, you love Google. Google when human life starts.
The first step of it.
No, Google. Google what it says. Yet. Google what it says and read it out loud. When does human life start? Parentum equitum came in. Human nature is not defined by parts. Amen.
It does say when the sperm and the oocyte cease to exist as such and the new human is produced.
Mm-hmm. This fertilization.
So pro-life, okay, look, Virgin, you will say that 95% of scientists and biologists agree that life begins at conception.
Mm-hmm.
And you're referring to
human life.
You know,
human life. Not life, human life.
Okay. I don't think that that is right. And even if 95% of scientists
So you're a science denier?
No.
But you're denying science.
I disagree. You can disagree with science. And
okay, so what is the scientific method that you have implemented to disagree with them?
Hold up. Let me find the article where...
I'm not going to hold up.
That's by Stephen Andrew Jacobs, where he says that, like...
Right, so I agree. There's 4% of people who say that human life doesn't begin at conception. But 96% say
they don't have a brain. You can say that about anything, like any human, but like
how old did you say you were again?
I'm 19.
When were you born?
2006.
Doesn't that make you 18?
I know my age. No, I am April. I am 19.
I don't think you're 19.
Search up April.
Appreciate you. Nico, hello, how are you? And just real quick, how old are you?
Hello, do I sound fine? I'm using one of these blue mics.
Yeah, you sound great. You sound great, bro. So abortion should be illegal. Oh, sorry, how old are you? I missed that part.
Yes, I am 29 years old.
All right, abortion should be illegal. Prove me wrong. Win a taco. Only exception: mother's life is on the line.
Yes, I would like to hear, what is abortion to you?
Abortion is the termination of a human life inside of the womb.
Very well. My angle on this is based on...
Hold on, I just want to address the chat real quick. She might have been 18. The math is right. 2006, you can be 18. But just my heart of hearts, I just don't believe she was 18 based off the argumentation and like the attitude. So I just played caution and moved on. Van came in with $1.99. Congrats on 25,000. John, God is good. God bless you and keep you. Thank you, Van. Appreciate you, bro. And thanks for the support. All right, bro, go ahead.
Yes, my angle is on the right to choose your own body, right? So...
Okay. So is that all 9 months?
You probably heard this. For me personally, no.
Okay, then you don't believe in bodily autonomy. Zoltan Lawrence came in with $1.99. Some people that think it's wrong to misgender. Same people that think it's wrong to misgender. Yeah, so if you have a cutoff line, you don't hold the bodily autonomy.
So here's why I disagree on part with bodily autonomy on the 9-month line, is because if the fetus can be removed from the body without it dying, then I think the act of killing the
you got to say unalive.
Oh no, I'm sorry.
You're good.
Yeah, but yeah, if abortion ends up in my thoughts are a bit scattered at the moment. Sorry. Could you elaborate on the? I'm not sure I quite understand. You're saying that.
Yeah, you're saying if they can abort all 9 months, if you have a cutoff line for abortion, then you don't believe in bodily autonomy, because you're saying that they have to give certain rights to that child for a certain period of time. You still there?
Yes, I don't think it's really based on the right of the fetus in this case, though, but the viability of the fetus.
Viability is location based, right? I'm not viable on the moon. Right, I'm not viable in the ocean.
However, if a fetus is let's say 10 please don't
ignore what I said and just continue on, right? Yes. So you're giving an argument for viability. Viability is strictly location based. I'm not viable on the moon. So how are you determining viability here?
Well, I was originally talking about the right to choose for your own body, right? Like you don't get to.
Yeah, but you already said that. You already said there's a cutoff line, so you don't believe in bodily autonomy, and then you went to viability. So how do you determine viability? I don't want to do a circle.
I think I must have gone wrong in my thought line, because I'm sorry. I'm really scatterbrained at the moment.
It's okay. Do you want to come back another time?
Yeah, it's just I really don't get your point, because here's the thing.
I haven't made a point.
Yeah,
right? I'm just showing you the issue in your argumentation.
So, I get that you're not viable on the moon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm definitely so scatterbrained at the moment.
Okay.
I think I'll come back some other time.
No problem. Appreciate you. God bless, and we'll try
Yeah.
again in the future. Ash, hello, how are you? And just real quick, how old are you? Ash? All right, God bless. Austrian guy, hello, how are you? And just real quick, how old are you?
Hello, I'm 28 years old.
All right, bro. Abortion should be, yeah, I can hear you. Abortion should be illegal. Prove me wrong. Win a taco. Only exception, mother's life is on the line.
So the thing is, I do not want to argue about ethics. Your point about that is very clear. I want to argue about legality. A main principle when it comes to what we put into our laws is how do those laws affect our societies. And now, in terms of abortion, we have shown, all countries around the world have shown that at least decriminalizing them, like you in the US had with Roe v. Wade.
I'm not American.
Okay, so you're Canadian, I presume, sorry. But a way to decriminalize them to a certain degree is overall the best outcome for society as a whole.
Yeah,
Therefore,
so
I don't think they should be illegal per se.
Okay, so you say it's the best outcome for society as a whole.
Yes.
Okay.
We know that because of
hold
several
on.
Orphan children.
Hold on. This is the amount of abortions worldwide just this year. We're only halfway through the year.
How is that arguing in good faith? Just showing me that counter.
Yeah. So this is, I'll tell you why it's arguing in good faith. Because you're making it it's good for society as the whole. Is it good for the 20 million people who are unalived?
See, the thing is, you have it very easy to show that counter that, I don't know, pulls its sources out of its ass, but there is no counter for quality of life for mothers who
You're not answering the question, and you're showing you're disingenuous and not arguing in good faith. I asked you a very specific question. You're moving on to a different point. So again, is it fair for the 20 million people here that were unalived?
Is it fair? No, obviously it's not fair.
Okay, so how's it good for society as a whole? That was your claim. Brenham came in with $5, says the U.S. has fought multiple wars. It's not like Europe. We will not start being like Europe now.
Yeah, okay. So how is it good? Because you don't know what is behind each of those individual cases.
Well, hold on. You said we do know. That was your original argument, is we know it's better for society as a whole.
If you look at more quantitative studies. I can't show you the individual destinies behind each one of those numbers in the company. Just look up all the major meta studies that have been done. Child mortality has gone down.
What is the conclusion?
Orphan children, the rate of orphan children has gone down.
Well, yes, of course. Hold on. Let me address some of your points. Right? Of course, child mortality, child dying, unaliving is going to go down if you're not counting the childs you're unaliving, right? And of course, childhood orphanage is going to go down if you're unaliving children.
No, but the thing is, child mortality, as in people who have been born, who have
right. So this is special
very
pleading.
Much so alive.
This is special pleading.
What?
It's special pleading. You're saying that children who have been born, their mortality has gone down because you're not
Yes.
counting the ones that weren't born. That's special pleading.
Yes, but
I count the ones that weren't born.
if you look at all those numbers overall, they are not proportionate. So
so you're
of
saying,
course,
hold on. Can you show me any study that says that we had 20 million born children deaths before abortion?
let me just. Obviously, I haven't come here with all scientific studies. I'm just
In
trying
6
to
months,
argue.
by the way, in 6 months. 20 million. So if what you're saying is true, we should see that in the past, before abortion was allowed, that we had 20 million infant deaths in 6 months. That should be comparable.
Yes, it is
Okay.
definitely comparable. And
Okay,
then you
show me in the past 20 million
women
infant
who
deaths
died
in
during
6 months.
labor, children who were abandoned.
I'm not denying that they did, but can you give me 20 million?
I mean, yes.
Okay, show me.
I have now found, because that's easier for me to look up, the statistic data the Austrian government used back in the 1970s when they decided not to legalize, but to decriminalize. Okay, that's a difference as well. And they showed that, if the access to abortion for women to terminate their pregnancies is at least somewhat safe.
Well, it's not safe for the baby being terminated.
Yeah, but you know how it was before that? Unfortunately,
yeah, it was unsafe for the mother. Sorry, you're not gonna appeal to me here saying that it was unsafe for the mother to go out and try to unalive their own child. I hope it is.
How am I not appealing to you?
Because I want it to be unsafe.
Well, okay, but that is very revealing of you.
It's not revealing. I do not think it should be a safe. Hold on. Let me answer your question. I do not think it should be a safe process for mothers to unalive their own children. I think it should be a dangerous process and should have heavy consequences for it. That's my argument. I don't think they should be allowed to do it.
How is that an argument? That's just cruelty, man. That is just cruelty.
It's cruelty. It's cruel. It's cruel. It's cruel to unalive 20 million innocent people because I want to. That's cruel. That's genocide.
Yeah, but it's disingenuous to say that abortions just happen because a woman wants to terminate that pregnancy.
That's the vast majority of them, right? So even if we look at
that's
so hold on. If we look at majority of the statistics, even if we look at things like Gutenberg, which is more liberal and takes a higher end, the best that you can say for people that are like in cases of grape or health issues at the highest point, and any study is like 6%. The majority of studies go about like 1% or less. So the majority of abortions happen because they just want to.
Okay, let me just fact check that.
Go for it. Aviator came in $5, says each year roughly 3.7 to 4 million infant children under 1 year of the age die worldwide. And then Kevin Clark came in $4.99, says, did this guy really say infant mortality has declined because you use abortions? Think about that for a second. Yeah, think about that for a second.
Okay. So the quickest Google search on platforms like Statista shows that for over 50%, it's not, it's relationship issues.
That's because they want to,
say
bro.
That it's just,
because of relationship issues? That's because they want to, bro. I'm having relationship problems, so I think it's best to unalive my own child. That's because they want to. They don't have to. They're not forced to.
You're actually being cruel. But okay, let's put all that aside.
Okay, hold on. So let's just take your logic. If I'm being cruel, let's take. Hold on. Okay, let's take your logic. First, I'm going to read the super chat. OJ Simpson came with $5. Says, my sincere question to the pro-abortion people is: do you think killing a child or unaliving a child is worse or better than unaliving an elderly person? If yes, why? All right. So let's take your same scenario, right? Newborn baby, they're having relationship problems. Can they unalive their newborn baby? If you say no, you're just being cruel.
No, because there is a difference between a fully developed and autonomous baby and
phenomenal. Cool.
the
So then we
points
need to
in time
determine that
in
difference
which,
first before we can
yes,
argue
but
whether
that
I'm
has
being
been done by
cruel.
scientists for ages, and it's really unnecessary to do that. And
Science,
sorry,
yeah,
your
science.
figure,
Hold on,
your
hold
figure
on.
before
You want to appeal to
90%
science?
agree that life begins at conception.
Yeah.
That's bullshit.
Okay, show me a
You
different
need to be
source.
called out on that.
Show me a different source.
I mean, okay, let's Google. When is a fetus viable?
That's not the question.
22 to
that's
24
begging the
weeks of
question.
gestation.
That's begging the question. Viability,
No.
you're saying life starts at viability. That's begging the question. When you say when is a life viable, that's what you're searching. You're begging the question because you're already determining that viability makes you human life. Now Google, when does science say that human life begins?
Well, I guess I will get a different answer because in Austria we are not as Christian fundamentalists as you.
It has nothing to do with Christianity, bro. Your question was when
Yes,
are they
it is.
viable?
Come
That's a
on.
different question.
Stop
Am I
pretending
viable
it's
on
not.
the moon? Hold on, am I viable on the moon?
It depends.
Am I viable on the moon?
Well, it depends if you have your nice spacesuit, if you have your
No spacesuit, no other
oxygen
extra
tanks.
stuff, no other extra stuff. Am I viable on the moon?
How is that remotely relevant?
Am I viable on the moon?
You know what? You would be so much more viable on the moon because then you couldn't spread your bullshit on.
All right, God bless, man. Bro literally was like, you're so wrong. No, none of science agrees that life begins at conception. When does viability start? What? How? That is 100%. Oh, the reason I would Google that is because we're not Christian fundamentalists. Huh? That's crazy. All right, James, hello, how are you? And just real quick, how old are you?
Hi, I'm good, and I'm 23.
All right, bro. Sorry, go ahead. I cut you off.
Yeah, I think that we might actually agree on quite a lot of things. So
Okay.
for me, I've read a lot of arguments about abortion, and they all seem to come at some point during the pregnancy, it turns from a fetus into a baby. Now, in my opinion, until someone can give me an exact point and a good reason for it, if I was a woman, I wouldn't have an abortion. However, I don't think I have the right to make that decision for another woman, for another person.
Do you have the right to tell me to not unalive my neighbor?
Yeah, probably.
Okay, cool. Then I think I have the same right to tell a mother not to unalive their child.
Well, I think this is going to be a very short conversation because you're coming at this with the preposition of their personhood, and by me saying that I'm fine with abortion, I must be saying that the personhood is conveyed to the human at a different point.
I have no idea what you just said.
Okay, could you repeat the question, please? I don't know.
Yeah. You're stating that you don't think it's right and you would never do it, but you don't have the right to tell anybody else. Well, I made the argument back. Do I have the right to tell people not to unalive their neighbors? And you said yes. And I said, okay, well, then it follows I have the right to tell a mother not to unalive her child.
But this is what I'm saying is that requires me to believe that at the point in their pregnancy, it is a baby rather than a fetus. Whereas I know that your neighbor.
So a fetus and baby is just stage of development. This is like saying it's a toddler, not a teenager, right? It's just a stage of development.
This is no, but it's okay. What words would you like me to use to draw the distinction?
Well, I want you to give me a distinction between a fetus and a baby.
I don't know the distinction. I think there is one, and I think it comes at a certain time.
Okay.
When
are there distinctions? But are there distinctions between teenagers and toddlers?
Yes.
Okay. Are there any distinctions between a teenager and a toddler that gives one the right to life?
No, but again, you're coming.
So then, what is the distinction between? Then what is the? Sorry. Then what is the distinction between a fetus and a baby that gives one a right to life and not the other?
I think in the ethical framework I'm coming at this from, it's essentially whether we say it's alive or not. And I'm saying that because I don't know, I don't feel that I have the right to tell anyone else.
Okay, so if we all collectively agree as a society, anybody over the age of 50 is no longer alive, should we be allowed to unalive them?
I know, and could you explain how that's relevant? Because
you said life is determined on whether or not we decide if it's alive.
Okay, an individual decides if it's alive because I don't know, and it's their body, not my body.
Oh, okay, so can a mother decide if it's the individual mother that decides? Can she decide I'm not alive up to the age of 15?
No, because once again,
okay, so it's not the individual mother.
Distinction while in utero.
Okay, so then how do we determine whether or not it's alive?
I don't know. My answer to that question is to just assume that it begins at conception. But because
okay, so then why are you saying that they can unalive their child?
Because I don't have an answer, right? And I can't say that.
So shouldn't you incorporate the principle of caution if you don't have the answer? So generally, like the principle of caution, it says you must make the choice that leads to the highest good, right? The best virtue that you could do. And so if it's possible that they're unaliving innocent human beings and you don't know, should you not determine that they shouldn't unalive innocent human beings?
I definitely, and I actually have had this conversation. I've had a conversation with a woman who asked my opinion, and I gave them this exact answer because my answer is, I don't know. Therefore, I will not make a moral statement about whether what you're doing is right or wrong. I would say that you should consider not doing it, but I don't think if you don't know, sure enough to institute a law.
If you don't know, why are you up here arguing with me? Chris Flock came in with $1.99 says you defined existence. No,
because I've come on to argue because you're saying it should be illegal.
Right, because we do know when human life starts, right? You know, science has consensually agreed on that human life starts at conception. Yeah, but it's a distinct human being with parents, its own gametes. It's a distinct, so you're saying you can't determine because you don't know when life starts. I'm saying science has all collectively agreed life starts at conception.
No, because I'm talking about how you treat a fit. You must know the distinction that I'm talking about.
No, you're not giving me a distinction. You're just stating that we have to have one.
I'm saying I don't know. I don't
notice.
Know,
you notice nobody started saying bad faith to me until I started calling out their bad faith.
You didn't say bad faith at all.
I've been saying bad faith. I've been saying bad faith all night, bro. So again, you haven't given me a distinction, and you're saying I must just know what your distinction is.
The distinction is whether you view it as a fetus or a baby. The thing
okay,
is,
so if somebody views, okay, cool. So if somebody views,
keep interrupting.
Yeah, because you're making stupid arguments. So if somebody views a fetus,
not bad faith, not bad.
So if somebody views a fetus as a fetus for 15 years, does it stay a fetus?
Oh, am I back on? Sorry.
Yes. Yeah.
No, I believe that at some point in utero, it goes from a fetus to a baby. Because
okay, but you said it was based off somebody else's decision, the determination. Which one is it?
Yeah, because I don't believe that I have the right to tell someone else what to do with their body, especially if I don't know. I can give caution, but controlling someone else's body is a different matter.
Okay, so you don't think you have the right to tell what anybody do? Do you tell people that they cannot punch other people in the face?
I'd say probably should not. You can do it. This is
do you think that they should? Do you think that there should be punishment for punching people in the face?
I think more or less without cause, probably.
Okay, so now you're telling people what to do with their bodies because you're telling them they cannot punch other people in the face with the body.
But again, we're getting back to the point where I'm going to say that I'm giving someone the choice to say, no, it's not a baby, it's a fetus. It is, I will grant you an arbitrary distinction, but it's a distinction.
Well, you just admitted, you just admitted that you're wrong. You just admitted it's arbitrary. By definition, you just said I have no reason. Hold on, arbitrary by definition means you have no reason to believe it or hold to it.
I'm talking about ethics here, my friend.
Yeah, you can't make an ethical claim based off something that is arbitrary.
Okay, but you can't, if you really want to go down this whole rabbit hole, you can't know anything. It's literally impossible. You can't trust your sense.
Okay, do you know you exist?
Let's go on Descartes, shall we?
Do you know you exist?
We'll go all the way.
Do you know you exist? Do you know you exist?
That is the third wave of doubt.
Do you know you exist?
Yes, it's the only thing I can know.
Okay, Dan, do you know, you know you exist. Do you know that there are truth claims?
Could you expand on that a little bit? Because truth.
Okay, well, you just said that you can't know anything, but yet you know you exist, right?
Yeah,
but that's a truth claim. So do you? So hold on, hold on. Do you now know that there are truth claims?
I I will grant you that based on the fact that
Okay,
I
so now
exist
you
in the
know
truth
two
claim.
things. You know you exist, and you know there are truth claims. Do you know there's knowledge?
What do you mean by knowledge in this situation?
Are you aware of the fact that you exist?
Yes.
Okay, so now you know there's knowledge. So there are things you can know. So don't go down this ridiculous argument that we can do it. So don't go down this ridiculous argument we don't know anything, so let's kill babies. That's stupid.
All you
Come on,
have
Bad, you're better
proven
than
here
that.
is
You're
that I
better
know
than that.
3 things. You've proven I've known 3, not that I can know everything.
So
I'm
it
talking about
refutes your.
Descartes'
I
waves
didn't
of
say you
doubt.
know everything. I didn't say you know everything. I refuted your argument where you say we can't know anything.
No. You said that I know some things. How can I know? Okay, let's talk about the external world then. How can I know whether abortion is wrong if I?
Sam Cipiol. Hello, how are you? And just real quick, how old are you?
Hey, how you doing? I'm 18. No, I'm sorry, 23. I was
Sorry,
thinking
what?
about that girl earlier. I'm just up here. I agree
How
with
old are you?
basically. I'm 23.
All right, bro. Abortion should be
2002.
illegal. Prove me wrong. Win a taco.
I agree with basically everything that you're saying. I disagree with your exception, and I think you may have clarified it earlier, but I don't think abortion should be justified. And if the woman's life is at risk either way, I think a emergency C-section should be performed, and they should render medical aid to both. I think you clarified that earlier.
So you should do everything you can to save the child's life, everything possible. You can't just say, oh, I'm going to lie. I'm going to, like, you try to do a procedure to save both lives, but if the child ends up unaliving, you're not culpable.
Yeah, 100%. So, would that technically not even be an abortion at that point then? Because an abortion is the intentional termination of the child, while just an emergency C-section or any other forms of
So the problem is if I write everything that I believe to an exact T on the screen, it's just going to be a screen full of text. Okay. So that's the thing. So I understand semantics are important.
Have fun with these other guys because their arguments are trash.
All right, man. Appreciate you. God bless, good sir. Adrian, hello, how are you? And just real quick, how old are you?
Hi, I'm 28.
You're really loud. Oh, okay. I got you. All right, bro. Abortion should be illegal. Prove me wrong. Win a taco. Only exception, mother's life is on the line.
Yes, so I wanted to propose in the case that the mother has a known illness that causes the fetus to develop maybe some kind of defect or disease.
Is there any way that you can like move to a different room? Like your room is very echoey and it's just really hard on the ears. If not, that's okay. We can work through it.
Oh, I'm sorry. 1 second.
Or hold the mic closer or something.
Is now better?
That's much better, yes.
All right. So I was talking about maybe the mother has an illness that causes a developmental issue on the fetus, and maybe a birth defect or some congenital disease. And it cannot be known till it has already been birthed or it's too late to perform an abortion. The mother knows she has this illness and accidentally she gets pregnant. So should it be legal for her to get an abortion?
No.
All right. So then we agree.
Oh, okay. Was that it?
Yeah, that was my argument.
All right, man. Well, appreciate you. God bless. When I said no, I meant she should not be allowed to have one. I don't know if we spoke past each other. Jacob came in $5, says both prokaryotes and eukaryotes are alive. If a single cell is alive, it doesn't matter what the stage of the fetus is. It's alive. Amen. I don't know what those other 2 words were, but amen. David Green, hello, how are you? And just real quick, how old are you? David Green? All right, David, God bless. Tom Y, hello, how are you? And just real quick, how old are you? Tom Y. All right, God bless, good sir. Ash, hello, how are you? And just real quick, how old are you?
Hello, I'm 21.
All right, bro. Abortion should be illegal. Prove me wrong. Win a taco. Only exception, mother's life is on the line.
So that's your only exception?
Yes.
So there's no exception for things like people who are using drugs, going and getting abortions because it could give developmental disabilities to, you know.
Yeah, correct. I wouldn't give this as an exception. Just like if a child is
So-
born with FAS, I don't think we should unalive that child.
Okay. So I just wanted to clarify that just because I was curious. So I guess I wanted to get into the conversation of I'll lay out some foundational things first. Okay. So we both agree that in an ideal world, abortion wouldn't exist because everybody would be well enough to take care of their kids. So like different reasons for women getting abortions, like financial concerns, timing, relationship issues, all of that would be able to be worked through things like, like free access to couples therapy, having the financial ability to take care of the child, like, correct?
Yeah, it'd be better if there was no trouble in the world.
Yeah.
Sure.
But
yeah.
we don't live in a world like that right now, correct?
No.
It's very, very like, especially raising a child. I personally, I just want to like sit and giggle a little bit because we're like two men sitting and talking about abortion, which is
Don't assume my gender.
Honestly, it's a very like women's issue because it has to deal with. Well, I'm just saying it's funny. It is a little bit funny.
Don't assume my gender.
But I'm not trying to. My apologies. I'm sorry if I hurt your feelings.
Yeah, it's very troubling when people just assume my gender. I own a uterus.
I respect that.
Thank you.
Okay. But anyways, so I think it's just funny because honestly it's crazy that it affects us this much. So my position on things like this is traditionally, I don't care. Whether you decide to get an abortion or not. I don't think it matters. I especially can see the reason.
All right, bro. I'm gonna have to cut you off.
When we have all of these
I'm gonna have to cut you off
view.
here. I'm gonna have to cut you off here. Can you make an argument? What's your argument?
Okay, I'll make.
Yeah.
My argument is that it should be legal, completely.
That's a claim, right? So what's the argument on why it should be
legal? My argument is that there is no reason to make it illegal. None whatsoever.
Yeah. So the reason I would say
I'll give an argument.
Stipulation
in there for you. Past 20 weeks. There might be a reason, right?
Okay, I'll give you a reason.
Before 20 weeks, there's no reason.
Okay, can I give you a
Whether it's
reason?
a human life, because we can agree it's a human life. It's a human life.
Are you interested in a conversation, or are you here to preach?
And all of that, blah blah blah.
Are you here to preach, or are you here to have a conversation? Can I give you a reason?
Well, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay, so simple two-part premise. I'm a human that has a right to life. Premise 1. Premise 2. I used to be a fetus. Conclusion: fetus has a right to life.
100%.
Okay, yeah, so that's a reason to not kill a fetus.
So that's your reason, right, to not kill a fetus?
Can you tell me which part?
So everything.
Hold on. Which part do you disagree with? Brenham came in with $2. Says based on that logic, slavery was a Southern issue.
Technically, slavery wasn't a Southern issue. It was an American issue.
So
in America,
which part of my premises do you disagree with?
We tend to take advantage of people, and we tend to. Do
I think I'm gonna have to move on because you're not engaging, bro. So which one of my premises do you disagree with?
Okay. So my premise is that whether
please address the question.
Whether or not it's a human life or not, right?
Okay.
Because it doesn't.
So I'm going to mute you because you're just preaching. You're not engaging in conversation. So let's try this again. Premise 1, I'm a human that has a right to life. Premise 2, I used to be a fetus. Conclusion, right? A fetus has a right to life. This is a deductive argument, which means for it to be wrong, you have to disagree with one of the premises or show a symmetry breaker. Which one you got?
I think it should be completely illegal. That's all. That's how I feel.
Can you argue against my argument?
Okay, what's your argument?
I'm not going to repeat it a third time.
Okay. So my argument
No. All right, I'm going to move on. You're not arguing in good faith. So thank you for your time, bro. God bless. Right. Yeah. Just completely wasn't listening at all and just yapaholic. That's all that was. Gain Eagers. Hello, how are you? And just real quick, how old are you?
Yo, what's up, bro?
What's up? How old are you?
Yo, I'm 25 years old, brother.
Okay. Abortion should be illegal. Prove me wrong. When a taco, only exception mother's life is on the line.
All right. So there's some questions.
Jacob came in with $2. Says parochies are single-celled organisms, i.e. virus. Okay. All right, go ahead.
So, you think they should be illegal, but why do you think they should be immoral? If they're not technically alive yet, they're not even conscious.
Brody, hello, how are you? And just real quick, how old are you? Brody. All right, man, God bless. KY, hello, how are you? And just real quick, how old are you?
35. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, bro. Abortion should be illegal. Prove me wrong. When a taco, only exception mother's life is on the line.
So you haven't been intellectually honest this entire debate, and you've been arguing in bad faith this entire debate.
Okay, can you give me an example?
So my question for you would be:
hold on. I'm willing to hold on. You don't just get to come in and just preach loudly, right? So you made a claim. Let's see if this claim is true. So you said I've been intellectually dishonest and arguing in bad faith. Can you give me an example?
Yes. So you're claiming that your basis for this is Christian ethics, but you won't give specific.
I've never once made a claim that this is through Christian ethics. Can you show me a timestamp where I said that?
You have.
Where?
Though.
Where?
So you did not you specifically said that you're a fundamentalist Christian, and this is what helps form your beliefs. But you will not give specifics over which that is.
I've never said I'm a fundamentalist Christian.
My question for you is:
I'm going to move on. I'm going to move on.
Bitter water.
I'm going to move on because I'm not interested in arguments of bad faith. I've never once said I'm a fundamentalist Christian. I've actually actively spoken out against fundamental Christianity. Everybody in the chat that follows me knows this. Guys, how do I feel about fundamental Christians? Go ahead and fill in the chat. Gerben, hello, how are you? And just real quick, how old are you?
Bow.
Yeah, how old are you?
Hello, I'm 21.
All right, bro. Abortion should be illegal. Prove me wrong. When a taco, only exception mother's life is on the line.
I mean, I just feel like a fetus. It doesn't want anything. It doesn't want to live. It doesn't want to die. It doesn't know anything. So basically, the mother is fully in control of the fetus.
Cool. So you're making an argument for sentience, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Can we unalive people that are asleep?
I believe so. I mean, I believe.
You think we can unalive people that are asleep?
I mean, not asleep because they're going to be awake soon.
Yeah, but they're not sentient.
And they've been alive before. They have already made progress in their life.
Right, but they're not sentient. So it's not sentience that you value.
I mean, there's still a brain activity going in a person that is sleeping.
Yeah, so it's brain activity doesn't determine sentience. You can have brain activity without sentience.
Yeah, like in a chicken or something. But you can also kill a chicken.
Well, no, I'm just talking about in humans, right? You can have brain activity without sentience in humans. So which one are you holding the value on, the brain activity or the sentience?
The sentience.
Okay, so again, if I fall asleep, I'm not sentient. Do I lose my value?
No, because you're going to be back sentient soon.
Okay, so then it's not sentience that you hold the value to. It's the future sentience.
I mean, it is sentience. It's also previous sentience because, like, a person who sleeps, he's already made progress in his life. He's already done things. He already wants things.
Right. So if you're conjoining previous to future sentience, right? I can give an explanation that future sentience is the value, and because it's simpler and explains and it's simpler and explains, it has the best explanatory power. We could just apply the what is it called, Occam's razor, and say my explanation is better. So if I can explain human sentience through a simpler explanation, then I don't need your previous value. I can also show you where previous sentience is completely irrelevant. So for example, would you say that someone who is now unalived, right, their life is no longer happening, do they have any value? Or do they have the same value as a living person?
I mean, no, they have less value.
So they do not have the same value as a living person. So then their past conscious experience is completely irrelevant because it's not giving them any value.
Yes, I mean, deep down, everything is useless in life, but like we live, we die, and then it doesn't really matter.
Right, but their past conscious experience is irrelevant, right? Because it's not giving them the right to life because they're unalived.
I mean, yeah, but a sleep person, he's still gonna have he can still do things when he's back awake.
Right, I agree with you 100%. The potential future like ours is what gives us value, right? That's why it's wrong to unalive anybody. The problem is the fetus also has a potential future like ours.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't think we should be able to unalive the fetuses because they have a potential future. Same reason I shouldn't be allowed to unalive you is because you have a potential future.
I mean, yeah, but like the butterfly effect, like Like doing one thing can fully change the future, but doesn't mean you shouldn't do that one thing.
That's completely irrelevant to what I said.
Why?
You have to tell me why it's relevant.
It's like there's also like, I mean,
can we get a mod to mute Brody? Not for what he's saying, just for the fact that he's spamming. I'm perfectly fine with him saying I'm losing. That's okay, but he's got to limit it to, like, once every now and then.
Yeah, I apologize for that.
That's not you. That's not you, bro.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess it's difficult, Like also.
Something was going to happen there. That was weird. Nashan, hello, how are you? And just real quick, how old are you?
What the hell?
Nashan?
Okay. Yeah, just quick question.
Sorry, how old are you?
Oh, I'm 23.
All right, bro. Abortion should be illegal. Prove me wrong. When a taco, only exception, mother's life is on the line.
I'm not here to argue. Abortion is just a question with a quick question.
Sure.
What days are you most willing to take questions?
I generally, like, if you're a Christian and you're looking to get questions answered, I'm going to tell you to go to your spiritual leader. That's the person you guys should be going to for your questions answered. You should be going to your church and your spiritual leaders.
Oh, okay. Okay, sure. Thanks.
No problem, bro. God bless. We haven't taken a TikTok guest. We finally got one in. Thank God that we're getting most people on YouTube. If God willing, we'll be able to shut down TikTok. See you soon and just be gone with it. Hello, how are you? And just real quick, how old are you?
I'm 28, and my name's Luke.
All right, bro. Abortion should be illegal. Prove me wrong. When a taco, only exception, mother's life is on the line.
So, kind of coming at it from a different angle, I believe that legal abortion actually causes less death than when it's illegal.
Okay. There was 12 million abortions in the last 6 months.
But it's actually, when it's legal, and oftentimes with legal abortion policies comes better contraception, it actually reduces the rate at which people actually get pregnant and reduces the overall rate of abortions from somewhere around 34 out of every 1,000 women.
So are you making the argument that before abortion there was it was 20 million, it wasn't 12 million. Are you making the argument that before abortion there was 20 million there was over 20 million abortions, or before it was legalized? Sorry.
No, I'm not making that case, but let me finish.
Well, so then obviously it's not less deaths, because there's 20 million deaths in the last 6 months. So.
Okay, but do you think, I guess I'll ask you this question. Do you think that abortion just existed when it became a policy? Because that's kind of the argument.
When it existed, it became a policy. I don't understand the question.
So there were illegal abortions pre-Roe v. Wade.
Sure.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is the rate of death was at 37 out of 1,000. Post when Roe v. Wade was actually,
37 out of 1,000 for at what time period?
That was pre-Roe v. Wade.
But for what? How long? 37 out of 1,000 in 6 months, 2 months, a year? How long?
That's just the data from the World Health Organization. It doesn't.
Yeah, but there's got to be a time period. It's got to be 37 out of 1,000 in what period? Because if it's 37 out of 1,000 a year, that's 37 deaths a year. With abortion being legalized, is 20 million.
Is that globally, or is that in the United States?
I think it's world. It's global.
Okay, yeah. From what I'm understanding, this is saying in the same time period.
I think the United States was 900,000. If I'm not mistaken, last year, not in the last 6 months, so over a year, was 900,000 in the United States. Over 1 billion abortions over the last 10 years. So yeah, so again, I think 37 to 900,000 isn't comparable.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying that out at the same time period, statistically, people who legalized abortion had less abortions. So because it actually opens up oftentimes with the other policies.
Then why is there 20 million?
It would say, the argument for this sake would say that there would be more than 20 million.
So your argument has to be that there was over 20 million illegal abortions before abortion was legalized in 6 months.
I'm not making that argument. I'm saying in the same time period that 34 versus 37, it is a statistically lower odd. Does that register?
No, it doesn't register. If in case A, we end up with more unalivings than case B, then it follows that case A has more unalivings.
There would be the exact same amount of abortions done if they're legal or illegal.
Okay.
That's the premise of the argument. So the whole thing is...
Let me just ask you a question. Let's say what you're saying is true, which is it's not. But let's say it is.
The World Health Organization isn't a reliable source of abortion.
The World Health Organization says that there's the exact same amount of abortions happen as when it was illegal versus when it's legal.
It's saying that when it's legalized, that there is a lower rate of abortions being performed. Saying that it's a contradiction.
How do they know that?
Yeah, they're collecting data.
How do you collect data for illegal abortions?
Okay, so where are you collecting your data from? Are we going to go into...
From legal abortions.
Yeah, no, I'm saying, but like where you're getting that data from? That's exactly what you're asking me.
From similar sources, like the World Health Organization. So my question remains, how are they collecting data for illegal activity?
It's not something that I personally know. I haven't dug too much digging into that side of the argument.
And then you also would have to be making the claim, if this was true, that there was more than 20 million illegal abortions in 6 months before it was made legal.
I'm going to look into the source material a bit more.
Now,
but this is from the
let's say you're right. Now, let's say you are right, that you are correct. My question would still remain. If schmurder was the same rate on whether it was illegal or legal, would you legalize schmurder?
No.
Cool. I'm on the same boat. Let's not legalize things based off the rate on how much people do it.
I do think that legalization, though, of this case would actually prevent loss of life, where the other case...
How does allowing people to unalive...
You'd have to have empirical evidence that would be the case if you legalize murder.
Okay,
like if you legalize murder, that it would reduce the amount of death being contributed to that thing. Then
so you're arguing a utilitarian point of view. If I could take one person and torture them forever and everybody else would end up with a better life, should we do that?
I mean, I don't think that that's necessarily a great ideal, but like I think we make those trade-offs all the time.
I'm not asking if we do make those trade-offs. I'm not asking what is. I'm asking what ought to be. Right? If we could take one person and torture them for the rest of their life, cause them horrendous pain, Warhammer levels of pain, should we do it if it ends up with that everybody else leads to a greater overall higher state of life and state of being, and there's less deaths?
I think we make those kinds of arguments every single day.
Again, I'm not saying that we do or it is. Again, saying, should we be doing it? It's an ought claim.
Yes, I get that. And I'm going to assert that people go and make that choice.
Okay. Again, I'm going to ask you, should we do it? If you refuse to answer, I'm going to move on to the next person because I'm not interested in bad faith arguments anymore.
It's not a bad faith. Can I explain why my
I'm going to explain why it's bad faith. If my argument is, should we do it? And you say, well, people do it. That's not answering the question. It's offering in bad faith because I'm asking you for an ought and you're giving me an is. That's why it's bad faith. So ought we do it? I will
give you a better art. I'll just say then yes. And yes, based off of the societal standards that we live in. We live in a society that we continually do that every single day.
So you think we should do that? You think we should take a single person
system that is exploitative by nature?
So you think we should do that?
I mean, I think you agree with that.
No, I don't.
I think you participate in a society that, it automatically, by being a default member of Canada or the United States.
Do you think you should do it?
Slave labor that provides a lot of the goods that we use.
All right, bro. I appreciate your time. I'm going to move on. You're not arguing in good faith. God bless.
That is arguing in good faith.
Okay, so let me ask you again, and I just want a yes or no. Do you think we should?
I just said yes.
Okay.
I said
you
yes.
think we should? Okay, cool. You think we should torture people for the sake of other people?
I don't personally think that that's a great way to live, but I think that...
He said yes, and then when I clarified, he said no. God bless. Akin, hello, how are you? And just real quick, how old are you?
Yo, I'm 24.
All right, bro. Abortion should be illegal. Prove me wrong. Win a taco. Only exception, mother's life is on the line.
Yeah, I wanted to know why you don't think it should be an exception in the case of forced assault.
Yeah, so the reason I wouldn't give that as the exception is because I wouldn't unalive a baby because they were conceived of forced assault, so I shouldn't unalive a child in the womb because they're conceived of forced assault.
Okay. Would you argue that if the mother has the kid, carries the child to term, would you argue that that's she's giving consent for that child to be born?
Well, I don't care if she's given the consent.
Why not?
Because that's completely irrelevant to me. I don't care if a mother gives consent to maintain their child's life. I think they have a parental obligation to do so. So like if a mother has a newborn child outside of the womb, I don't care if they consent. Hold on, let me answer. If a mother has a newborn child outside of the womb, I don't care if they consent to taking care of that child's life. I think they are obligated to.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm saying, I'm asking, would you say that the mother gave consent for that child to be carried to term in her body?
Sure, but I don't care if she did.
Okay. So why doesn't the consent matter in the case of the mother being forced? The consent of her body. Why doesn't her bodily autonomy matter in the case of her being forced to have the child?
Wait, hold on. You're all over the place. Like you went to like consent to the bodily autonomy to like. So again,
well,
the reason
my
consent.
Is,
well, which is your argument? Pick an argument, stick to it. I appreciate that.
No, I'm saying that in the case of a mother having the child, she's given consent for that child to be in her body. In the case of the mother being forced to assault and then aborting it,
right? I already answered that. I said I don't care about consent. There's a parental obligation.
Yeah, but okay. Then I guess why does the parental obligation outweigh someone's bodily autonomy, their choice?
Yeah. So, do you think a mother should be allowed to unalive their newborn baby?
No.
Okay. Well, why does her bodily autonomy not outweigh that child's right to life? Because she has to use the calories to take care of her body. She may have to breastfeed the child. She has to go feed and take care of it. Her bodily autonomy, she doesn't have full control over it. She has an obligation to take care of that child.
Sure, but in the case of the child, it's she's not using her internal organs.
That's just special plating, right? Because you said bodily autonomy, right? And now it's specifically internal organs.
So if I hold to bodily autonomy being strictly internal organs, does that change the
well, yeah, it's ad hoc.
How so?
Yeah, it just means that you're not giving a reason for it. You're just saying internal organs.
Well, I'm saying if the mother
what's the difference? So hold on. So let me show you why this is ad hoc. Let's say a mother's stranded on a boat and she has a child, and the only way she can feed that child is through her breast milk. It's now an external organ that she has to use. What is the separating factor between the external organ and the internal organ?
Is what? In this case, it would be internal, right? Or in this case, it would be external.
Right. So what's the difference between the internal and the external organ that makes it different?
Is that she can choose how to use her internal organs, but if you're using external, it's ordinary, I suppose you could say.
Say that again.
It's ordinary care versus extraordinary care, basically.
Give me a separating factor between ordinary and extraordinary.
Internal. Using your own kidneys, your own, etc., versus using an external.
Wait, so your definition of extraordinary is internal? So if somebody asks for extraordinary evidence, I'm gonna have to show them my inside of my stomach?
No, I'm saying the definition of an extraordinary usage of your body versus an ordinary usage of your body.
No, I asked you the difference. I asked you the difference between the words extraordinary and ordinary.
I can pull up the definition.
Well, I'm just asking how you're using it, because if all you're using it for is internal and external, yeah, if you're just using it as internal, external, you're just special pleading.
I don't think so. I'm saying there's no. It's a normal, an ordinary care. So ordinary would be there's no distinctive feature.
Okay, so do you think it's ordinary for babies to be conceived inside the womb?
Sure, but that conception is not.
So then how is it extraordinary?
It's an extraordinary thing. The care
how's it extraordinary if it's an ordinary? What human alive today didn't exist inside a mother's body?
Sure, but the care is extraordinary. There's only one case.
How's it extraordinary?
Where you give that care, and that's through pregnancy, versus all other care being external work.
How's it extraordinary if every single human on Earth existed in that state?
Because the act of pregnancy is not extraordinary. It's a normal way of being born. I agree with that. The act of care is extraordinary because there's only one case.
Literally every single human was cared for that way. Every human alive was cared for that way. So how's it extraordinary?
Because that's the only time where you give that care.
Okay, well then breastfeeding.
Like every human who's needed.
Hold on. No. I understand your argument.
A liver transplant.
I understand your argument. Then every single human that breastfeeds, right? That's also extraordinary, because that's the only case when we breastfeed humans.
Sure.
So then, by your definition, could we unalive the child? It's stuck on a boat. The only thing that she has to feed that child is her breast milk. Can she deny it and throw the child off the boat?
I guess that goes back to consent, that you don't care. I would argue that if the mother...
Well, hold on. I'm asking you. It doesn't matter what I think about consent. Do you think the mother has the right to throw the child off the boat?
Well, did the mother consent for the child to be there?
She's on the boat. She has the child. She revokes her consent. Does she have the right to throw the child off the boat?
It depends if she gave consent for the child to be there in the first place.
Okay, let's say her dad dropped it off and she didn't want the child there. The child's dad dropped it off.
So she's on the boat by herself, and then someone forcibly drops the child off with her.
Mm.
I would say no, she's not obligated to give that care.
So she can throw the child off the boat.
Right? If you're on a boat and someone makes you, if you're by yourself.
So you're hold on, you're not a child, your child.
No, because you were gonna say something.
So you're stating that if this mother is on the boat with her child and the dad dropped off the child, she's like, damn, I got this child, she can just starve the child to death?
If she was expecting care to be given to that child, and that care was no longer, if she had this kid, and then she gave the kid, saying that someone told her, hey, you don't have to care of this kid anymore. Actually, that's a good point. Hold on, give me a sec. I gotta think about this.
Come on, man. Tell us about how you think it's okay for mothers to starve their children. Go ahead.
I don't. That's strong. Well, okay. So let me say, yeah. In this case, so the mother consented for the child to be born? So I would say no.
So you say the mother can starve the child?
No, I would say the mother is obligated to take care of the child again.
Okay, let's say that she didn't consent for the child to be born, but she was chained up from like horrible monsters. Pregnancy came to term, child was born. Can she let the child starve?
No, because again, so in that case, I would argue that she's not obligated to have the child.
No, the child's born. She didn't choose it. She was tied up. She had no choice but to have the child. And now she has this child and she's stuck on this boat. Can she let the child starve?
That's a good one. Give me a sec. Yeah, no, that's a good thought experiment. I guess it would go back. It would be the combination of ordinary and extraordinary. Where did we land on the ordinary versus extraordinary? I'm thinking, I'll give you context. I'm thinking that in this case, it would be a context of ordinary and like her giving ordinary care, right? So
Well, you haven't given me a separating factor between ordinary and extraordinary. You said inside the womb because most people don't get care through inside the womb. Well, most people don't get care through being breastfed. So she would not have to feed or breastfeed the child.
I suppose it's a specific thing then. Like it's you can only and you can only have that care inside the womb through the mother you're given to. But you can get breastfed through any lactating mother.
So
that makes it ordinary.
So basically, you're just going to define the term until you end up with something that's inside the womb.
Well, I think the point is that there's certainly a difference between the care.
Of course, there's a difference, but you're not giving me a moral reason why it's different. So again, this mother that's stuck on the boat, she can't give it to another mother to breastfeed. Crazy Ivan came in with $10, says, if rock climber slips, but his partner grabs his arm to keep him from falling, must the partner continue to hold his arm, or can he let go in the name of autonomy, letting his friend fall to his doom? Based analogy.
Yeah. No, you make a good point. All right, bro. I don't think I have anything for that.
All right, man. Be pro-life. Appreciate you. God bless.
Appreciate you. Peace.
Almost kicked the wrong person. All right, we got time for a couple more. Juan, hello, how are you? And just real quick, how old are you?
Yo, bro, I'm 17 years old. Hope that's
God
fine,
bless. Yeah? It's not. Sorry. Ash, hello, how are you? And just real quick, how old are you?
Oh, I was on here before. I wanted to give you a moral argument like you asked for. So I think that abortion...
talk? I don't remember. Shouldn't you be in the back of the queue? That's weird. Okay, how old are you?
I'm 21.
All right, what's your argument?
My argument is that it falls under autonomy, so it's not murder. Abortion isn't murder, therefore it shouldn't be.
Can't use that word.
Oh, okay.
It's murder.
It isn't taking a life.
What is it?
A video game.
It's not taking a life. What is it?
It's a medical procedure.
That has the conclusion of what?
Has the conclusion of ridding a burden from somebody who's dealing with something.
Okay, so then, okay, fine. So okay, fine then. All of the small Holocaust, was just a medical procedure.
No, because there's a difference. You're not taking away somebody's individual freedom, because the baby is
taking away the baby's individual freedom.
So like if the woman doesn't eat, right, the baby dies, right? Mm-hmm. So should we force feed women who are pregnant because they could be harming the baby? Do they need to be force fed to keep the baby alive?
Wow. Thanks for reporting me, guys, and leaving me removing a lot of my live access. Thanks for that. I'm having civil conversations and being fair. I don't think we should well, actually, maybe we should. So I think they'd be held liable for neglect.
You think they'd be held liable for neglect?
Yeah.
Okay. So then
let's like this standard, right? Like if a mother intentionally chooses to use substances and while they're pregnant, I think there's certain culpability there and they should be held liable for certain neglect and abuse, just like if they choose to starve themselves and make sure the child doesn't get enough nutrients.
Yeah, but my problem with
I'm gonna restart.
I can't force somebody to do anything.
Sorry, just one sec. I'm gonna restart the TikTok guys, and hopefully that'll fix the issue. So I'll be right back. You can keep going though, bro. What did you say?
Oh, I was gonna say we can hold off for the TikTok if you want.
I don't care. We got YouTube.
Oh, okay. But so I guess my point of view is that, you could say, yeah, hold them reliable for abuse or whatever. But at that point, it's like I can't force anybody to do anything. That's like a right under God.
We force people to do things all the time.
All the way back in I'm assuming you're American, correct?
No, but we force people to do things all the time.
Okay. So I'm thinking from a standpoint, right? I can't make her eat. I can't. You can't do that.
I think we can. Whether we should is different, right? Like we can.
Okay.
Like people do this in prison systems, right? They'll force feed people.
They'll force feed people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Except for all the hunger strikes where people refused to eat, whole prisons, and it changed. It actually is part of prison reform. So because they couldn't do that legally. They had to let them starve.
Some places can't do it. Some people can do it, right? I'm just making the thing that we can do it. Whether we should is two different questions.
No, you can't. You actually can't do that.
You can. There are some places.
No, you can't. Not in America. Not in a free country.
Fine. The whole world isn't America.
Okay, so the whole world isn't America, but so you're saying it's okay to take somebody's autonomy away from them?
There are certain situations where we take people's autonomy away all the time.
Okay.
For example, the prison system.
But somebody not wanting to be pregnant justifies taking away someone's autonomy, so that they can't make that choice to undergo a medical procedure.
I don't think people have autonomy in the first place. I can't run butt naked down the street.
You can, but there is
no. It's against. Yes, again. I absolutely 100%. Oh my God! Yes. You said you're going to come up with. Hold on. Your argument was they can't do it because it's illegal, and now your argument is they can do it even though it is illegal. Bro, you got to stay consistent, my friend. Stay consistent in your argumentation, right? My argument is that, of course, they can have an abortion. It's possible, but it should be illegal to do so.
So we'll just move on because I disagree with you. So I'll go on to the illegal part, right? So the reason why it isn't illegal, do you want to know why? Or do you know why?
It depends on where we're talking about.
Okay, so it's
the whole world doesn't center
right
around
now,
the United States.
At least within the US, I'm just going to talk from my point of view in the US, just like that guy earlier from the UK or whatever.
There are places it's illegal in the US, isn't it? Isn't there certain states where it's illegal?
It is, but under Roe v. Wade, when it was here, I'll correct myself. I'll be very correct. So under Roe v. Wade, when it was legal across our entire country in America, okay, it was legal because of privacy rights or whatever, right? But I think there's more argument to it than that. So public health and safety is one of the things that I think it falls under the reason why we have it, because when it is illegal, people do it illegally and it's not a safe procedure anymore.
Yeah, I don't want it to be safe.
Making it legal provides it to people free access.
Yeah, I don't want it to be safe.
A medical professional, not
I don't want it to be safe.
Hanger, you know what I mean?
I don't want it to be safe.
So
this is a silly argument. No, I don't want it to be safe.
This
is like saying hold on. This is like saying we should make safe procedures where people can commit murder against their neighbor. We should make it safe so that I can go murder my neighbor without any sort of consequence.
Okay. So then is it only safe then for the people who get it because of health of the mother? So is it only safe for those people who could be harmed, and then the people who just want to get rid of their baby have the unsafe procedure?
Yeah, I think people that have that they're going to be unalived, that all what they're doing. So let me be very clear. I think that a mother has a right to a medical procedure that saves her life. If by chance her child ends up being unalived by it, right? She's not culpable, but in that medical procedure, she should also be trying to save her child's life.
Yes. The definition of abortion is the killing of the child, by the way. So when you're arguing abortion, you're
I'm not interested.
That the child dies in every argument. Just so you know.
So I'm not interested in putting up a 10-page paragraph behind me for people to read the nuances of things. I just clarified my position.
Well, I'm clarifying it for people so they understand my point of view and where I'm coming from when I say my next thing. That's all. So then, from your point of view of it being worse, like being a bad procedure, so then that also would affect all the people who actually do need it within your confines. So they would also have a poorly done procedure as well.
Why does that logically
Well, because
follow?
you said you want it to be unsafe, right?
I want it to be unsafe for the people who are doing it illegally.
Okay. So you want it to be so you want the people who are doing it illegally to use coat hangers instead of going and getting it
I don't
done
want
the
them
right
to do
way
it at all,
and
but I
being
don't want
safe.
us to help people commit a murder.
Yeah, but it's not murder.
I think it is. That's
Okay,
the whole point of my
how
argument.
Is it murder, guy?
Because it's the unaliving of an innocent human being.
Yeah, but that happens all the time. That happens when poor men fight rich people's wars. That happens when people die all the time, guy. For all
so I'll just use your argument. People die all the time. I should be allowed to go murder my neighbor.
What I'm saying. So then why does it
Hold on, let me
matter
listen to my argument. Listen to my argument before you jump in the middle of the sentence and say that's what I'm saying. People die all the time. I should go unalive my neighbor. Kevin Clark came in 499 says America isn't the center. I won't stand for this coming from someone who uses monopoly money. Money currency.
Money.
I don't like America right now either. So much love to that guy. But yeah, honestly, I'll say it like this. I understand that you can tell somebody not to go and murder their neighbor. But at the same time, it's you have free will. You can speak whatever you want to say, guy. You can say, don't do that. Right. But you can't control the guy and make him not do it. You can't make him not do it. And in order to make him not do it, you have to
hold on
in a court that
you're just gish galloping, bro. I can't say whatever I want to say. Not here in Canada.
You can say whatever you want to say.
No, I can't. There are certain laws against certain things that I can say in Canada. So, for example, any sort of speech towards the HGTV community is a criminal offense in Canada.
I'm not one of those people who feels that way. So, from my point of view, you can feel however you want to feel internally within your own mind. Okay. You can. Okay. You can think.
I'll just use this argument. I'll just use this argument.
You can tell them don't go and murder somebody, but it
doesn't.
Murder. But it doesn't take away their autonomy in making that choice for themselves. It never does. That's why we had the legal system, because we can't take autonomy, but we can punish how you use it.
Sure. So, I think we should punish people who get abortions.
Punishing people for getting abortions is punishing them for enacting their right of.
What is a right?
Okay. What is a right? What's a right? What's a right under God? Tell me. You're Christian, right?
A right under God.
Yeah, what's a right under God? What are your rights under God?
So there are no rights. I think rights is an arbitrary term, and I do think we give them, and they are used in society. But there is not something that's just
worship Jesus. Nobody can take your worship of Jesus away from you, correct?
Yes, they can.
So you have a right to worship Jesus.
They can take that away, though.
Yeah, but if they did, is that a good thing or a bad thing?
I think it's a bad thing, but they could take it away. I think rights are arbitrary rule sets and standards in society.
So you're
just saying people have these rights. You're saying rights are. No, that's not what I said. That's not what I said. I said they're arbitrary, which means that they're just a subjective perspective from a societal standard.
They're like a bottom line guy. Rights
so
are like
so do you think rights are objectively inherent in the universe?
Yeah, I think so. I think that people have.
Okay, so where do these rights come from?
That's why we fight for them.
Where do these rights come from?
In history, we fight
for
rights.
Where do these rights come from then?
These rights come from the people. These rights.
Okay, then it's not. Then it's not an objective standard. It's a subjective standard.
It is an objective standard. Like you believe everybody has a right to life, correct? So that's your whole basis.
Yes, but that's a subjective standard that we've given people. Yeah, and I think it can be taken away.
Then you're destroying your own argument, saying that it's.
Bro, you need to let me finish my sentences,
that means
please.
That right is arbitrary.
Bro, you need to let me finish my sentences, please. So, for example, right, back when slavery was going on, they said that people were black people were 3/4 of a person. Was that a right that was taken away from them?
No, they weren't afforded their rights as human beings. That's
so they weren't. So where did those rights come from?
Those rights come from them being autonomous human beings with their own control over their own body outside of the woman, and like that you get those rights the second you're born, because there are different rights between.
Where does it come from?
Okay, so it comes from when you leave the womb. You're immediately in America. I'm just going to.
That's not answering the question. Where does it come from?
Rights that a child has. So you have the right.
Where
to not be
does it
neglected.
come
right
from?
To not be abused.
Where does it come from?
It comes from the law. It comes from.
Okay, so then it's arbitrary.
It's not arbitrary.
Because you just said it was. You said it came from the law and what people agree on.
You said it was arbitrary. I said you're destroying your argument by calling it
arbitrary. So then where does it come from?
I said rights are important.
Okay, Linda, where does it come from?
Oh, Linda. Okay.
Where do rights come from?
Where do rights come from? Rights come from how people feel. And when people
so then it's subjective.
For rights. But there are rights. So you have a right. Right, you have a right to life.
Hold on. Please just don't jump all over the place. You just said it came from where they feel. They came from where they feel.
Okay.
So it came from where they feel. So by definition, it's subjective.
Okay. So by definition, it's subjective. But people can't feel objectively. Like there can't be objective feelings. Like I'm sure that everybody with like a sane mind that can take care of themselves feels like they don't want to die, right?
God bless, man. All right, I got time for one more. Brian, hello, how are you? And just real quick, how old are you?
Hi, I'm good. I'm 25.
All right, bro. I'm good, bro. Abortion should be illegal. Prove me wrong when in taco. Only exception, mother's life is on the line.
My only disagreement so far with everything you said is miscarriages. Do you consider a miscarriage when, like, nature or the fact of...
No, it's not an abortion.
Okay, so I believe the process of removing the fetus, if the fetus has had or the mother has had a miscarriage is called an abortion. Is that so?
No.
Is that
if it was called an abortion, we wouldn't use the word miscarriage.
Okay. Okay, that makes sense.
All right. Anything else?
No, that's it. I pretty much agree with everything else.
All right, man. God bless.
Thank you.
Isaac, hello. How are you? And just real quick, how old are you?
Hello.
Kevin Carr. Yeah, just one sec. Kevin Carr came in with $4.99. If you're pro-abortion, it makes no sense to argue about rights. By being pro-choice, you are actively rejecting the most basic human right, the human right to life. Amen, Kevin. All right. Hello, sir. How old are you?
27. Who is this? Sorry, somebody just handed me the mic.
All right. God bless. Lorenzo, hello. How are you? And just real quick, how old are you? All right, peace. And then the last person in the queue, and just enough time to finish. Perfect. Hello, how are you? And just real quick, how old are you?
I'm doing grand. I'm 22.
All right, bro. Abortion should be illegal. Prove me wrong. Win a taco. Only exception: mother's life is on the line.
Can I get a small pizza? We don't do tacos here. Can I get something else? Grand.
Sure.
What about what do you want me to use instead of like the R word, the big bad word, grape? So in the case of grape, are you familiar with the violinist argument?
Yeah.
Yep. So just to run through it for the people that don't know it, you wake up in a hospital attached to the best violinist in the world. The Society of Violinists attach you because your kidneys are special. You have 9 months. You'll be able to detach and the violinist will be fine, or you can just detach yourself and the violinist will die. So in that situation, do you find that disanalogous to pregnancy?
I think it's disanalogous because in situation A, it's a life saving procedure. In situation B, it's a life ending procedure.
Well, both will result. It's the action of the autonomous action of the, let's say, the mother in both situations. It's either
so again, I'll tell you why it's disanalogous because one's life saving and one's life ending. So for example, if I'm performing like a life saving procedure on someone like CPR in Canada, you have to continue to perform the CPR until medical professionals come. But I do not think somebody's morally obligated to perform CPR for eternity as long as the heart keeps pumping. I think at some point you can revoke your life saving procedures, right? You can revoke the right to do that. I think we need to do everything that we can to a certain extent, but at some point you have to say, hey, I can no longer do this. So I think in this situation, right, with the violinist, you're doing a life-saving procedure and you can revoke your right to the life-saving procedure.
Yeah, I think we should, but I think I'm going to be really precise with the distinction here. I think we should do it morally, but I don't think we can hold them accountable if they don't do it. So for example, if I was laying in a hospital bed and I had some weird illness where only your magical hand, like if you stroked me across the cheek, I would be healed. It would be really good of you to come across and just like heal me, but there's no legal precedent to force you to do it.
Jimmy Space came in with 297 say, hey, who is this? I'd actually say that there is some sort of obligation there that, it's not super invasive. It's something that you can come and do. The problem is like, this is a mountain is a molehill. Like at what point can we say, hey, I can take out your intestines and give it to this person? I think if generally it's a relatively safe procedure and it's not too invasive on your life and all you have to do is give a swipe of the hand, I'd say, I think we should be able to force you to go do that.
And that's interesting. That's a new position to just, you can force people to commit actions that they don't want to do. Let's say you really don't want to do it. Policemen can come like grab you and grab your hand and force you to do it.
Yeah, I think this would be a better outcome. So like, just like, for example, if I come across a child in the middle of the woods, I think I have some sort of moral obligation to try to save that child's life. I can't just walk past it and let it die out in the woods.
Yeah. Yes, moral, not legal.
I think it should be some sort of legal obligation too. Like, I think there should be some sort of
utilitarian view where you can be forced.
No, it's a virtue ethicism.
Sorry, go ahead.
It's virtue ethicism, right? So you should strive to like lead to the best possible goods and to being the best possible person that you can without crossing certain boundaries and lines. And it can be difficult to derive where that line comes from. But yeah, I think there should be certain types of consequences if you come across an infant that's just in the woods and all you have to do is pick it up and take it somewhere. If you refuse to do that, I think there should be some sort of consequence. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So let's go back to your example previously. Let's say we torture one man, but the rest of the 7 or 8 billion people live in complete bliss.
Yeah, that's a utilitarian point of view. I do not hold a utilitarian point of view.
Yeah.
I would not do that. Because in this situation where all you have to do is pick up the child and carry them, then yeah, I would say you have some sort of obligation to do that. But I wouldn't say that you have an obligation to fight off a pack of wolves to save that child.
Right, but you're still denying you're still okay with the law denying your autonomy.
Yeah, I don't think we actually have autonomy. I think that's an illusion that people say we have. We have certain levels of autonomy and certain levels of not, which is exactly what I'm arguing for. It's like a virtue ethicist type of position, right? I have certain levels of autonomy on my body. It's, for example, you can't just come and steal my blood, but I also can't go out into the street just, waving my wiener around at people.
Right, but there's difference between restricting you from doing something and forcing you to do something.
Absolutely, yeah, 100%. But that's what I'm saying is there's certain levels of autonomy, right? And this is where we get like this virtue ethicist type of idea. We want to strive to be the most ethical people that we can be. And again, that line can be very difficult to find, but that's something that we should strive to find. So like I said, there, things like the draft. I don't know if I'm for or against draft. I think to a certain extent, hey, I'm kind of for it, and to a certain extent, I'm not. I'd have to discuss and look at it a bit more. But this would be a situation where you don't have bodily autonomy. But I also don't think that somebody should be able to put their hand up my butt and use me as a puppet. Right? In a certain situation where I'd say I do have bodily autonomy.
Yeah. So, okay, again, I'm going to make the distinction again of should and can between moral and legal distinction. We should strive to be the most moral individuals we can. I agree. Mm-hmm. But can we look at someone who lives in like a really like bad area, does drugs, commits crimes, yada yada?
Yeah, like, the D word will give us banana too.
Oh, I said yada yada. Sorry.
No, the D word, D, like DRUG.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So can we look at them and say you're not being moral enough, therefore we're going to go force you to do something more moral?
I think to a certain extent, like maybe we could force them into rehabilitation. I think that there might be an argument there. I haven't really put too much thought on whether or not we should in that specific scenario. I'd have to wrestle with it, but I think you can make an argument for that.
Hello?
Hello? You still there? Did you hear me?
Yeah.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
That's all right. Just disconnected.
Yes. Are we? Yeah, I think we're delayed. Can you jump back up?
Yep. Hold on.
I got you. I'll boot you. You just hop back up. Just so you fair warning, I got like 5 more minutes and I got to go. So if you got a plane you want to land it.
Nope.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Perfect. So good. Yeah, it's just, so we should be allowed to force people to do something more moral. Question is, where do you draw the line for that? Is if someone doesn't give 10% of their paycheck, can we force them to do it?
Maybe. Like I said, that line can be difficult to find, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't wrestle and try to find where that line is. I don't think it's an all or none kind of situation. So for example, like again, with bodily autonomy, there are certain bodily autonomies I do have, certain bodily autonomies I don't have. Right? In certain scenarios, like is somebody being charitable enough? Maybe forcing people to be charitable is too much, right? But maybe forcing somebody to go into rehab isn't too much. Maybe that's something that is overall beneficial.
Right, but that would be dependent on your priors. So if, say, one person looked at something and say, you know what if I disagree with you and say, yeah, actually everyone should be forced to give 10% of their paycheck for charity. Old Testament says so. Should we be, who's right in the situation? If it's difficult to find.
Yeah, so I already made the claim that it could be difficult to find the lines. I'd have to wrestle with that specifically, and then you're kind of putting me in a situation where I'd have to give the line, right?
Yeah.
So I can have this ethical system that works, and simply say I don't know what makes the mountain a molehill or a molehill a mountain yet, right? So we can investigate in certain things and derive where that line should be. That's the point of the public square. That's the point of having a conversation and determining, hey, at what point can we say do X, and what point can we say not do X?
Right, and if we have this conversation and remains unresolved, and we go back to the violinist argument and say we don't actually know where bodily autonomy should be rejected and should be enforced, can we then say that
well, I've given a distinct
rape,
line, and I've given a distinct line in the violinist argument. The distinct line here is that one is a life-saving procedure and the other one's a life-ending procedure. So an infant an infant that's in the womb is it's a natural environment. You're actually doing an invasive processing to end its life. Where somebody that is attached to you, the invasive processing was done to sustain a life. That's the difference. That's why it's not analogous.
It's again, if we're, or not again, so from what you mentioned previously, it's for, was it a life like ours argument, or was it like a future like ours?
Yeah, so we shouldn't end other human lives because of a potential future like ours. That's why the reason we don't unalive anyone intentionally. But that doesn't mean I'm obligated to save specific lives.
Are you not obligated? I thought you said if there's a baby in the forest, you should pick it up and you should.
Right, but I gave a distinction there. So, for example, if walking through the woods, if I see a baby, I think there's a certain obligation where I should pick up the baby. But if it's like being attacked by wolves, I don't think there's an obligation to fight off the wolves.
Right, and then we're in circles where we just have different priors at this point. So how can you hold someone accountable if they simply have different priors to you, and they just simply draw the line elsewhere where you can't really objectively hold? Like if it's a rabbit attacking. If it's a rabbit attacking a baby, you should be able to protect it. But if it's a wolf, you shouldn't. Can we not just get slightly bigger animals, and then where do you draw the line?
So basically, you're just giving. I forget the name of the ship. You're just giving the ship paradox, right? At what point is it a new ship? At what point is a mountain a molehill? At what point, yeah. So it's just that paradox of where you draw the line. But we already have this in society. So again, we already have standards where people have certain bodily autonomy and people don't. Right? We do draw that line. Now that line may be arbitrary and people might disagree with it. There's a lot of nudists out there that think it's okay I should just be able to go walk on the street naked. I disagree with that. I'm happy that there's a line that says that, hey, you have to wear clothing outside.
And how would you draw, like in this situation, how do you know that your line is, let's say, accurate? Is it just your perception, or are you going off like popular vote?
I'm not going off popular vote. I think it's a more ethical system, that it's not as depraved.
As in making laws,
that it doesn't lead to sort of depravities where, everything's like more hypersexualized and focused on that. It seems to be, organs like this make humans focus on the sexuality, and I don't think that's a good thing overall in society. So this would be like my perspective. But you're just simply stating, what do I do if someone disagrees with me? I talk with them.
I'm going to be more specific in terms of like constructing laws and actually drawing that line of what should be legal, what shouldn't be legal. But my Wi-Fi keeps cutting up. I think my 5 minutes is up. Thank you so much, John.
All right, man. God bless. Have a great day.
God bless.
All right, guys. That is time for me. Say hello to Abby. You guys won't be able to see her here. Interesting day. You know what's something I've noticed? I don't know if it's just me, but I get a lot of like, you're a douchebag arguments from the chat. And I feel like I was being very fair and arguing in good faith, or at least doing my best to. But when I watch people like from the secular point of view that will argue like pro-choice, I will literally see them insult and mock the people that they go against, full on mock and assent, and get cheered on. I'm just saying. I noticed the other day I was listening to someone else's live, and this guy was literally like saying there, he's like, dude, you're kind of being a dick to me. And he's like, oh, boo-hoo, I'm being a dick to you. Do you want a tissue? Of course I'm going to be a dick to you. You believe in X, Y, and Z. And everybody in the chat was cheering this guy on. I was like, oh my goodness. At least I don't go that far. Wolf versus a rabbit. I don't know. Move over, John. We can't see Abby. Oh, because you're watching in the shorts. There's her armpit. I actually saw this in a debate with a guy. We're going to do a live about it on Thursday. He had a debate with this guy, and this guy was mocking and insulting him the whole time. And this guy mocked and insulted him back. And the guy said, oh, that's very Christian of you. How Christian loving. He's like, you just did that to me, and I did it back to you. He's like, well, I never claimed to be a Christian. I'm just saying. All right. Our Father is in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us of our debts as we also forgive our debtors. Lead us not to temptation, but deliver us from evil. Lord, thank you for this day. Thank you for these conversations. Thank you for all the wonderful, cordial conversations. Sometimes we can focus on the bad, but hey, let's focus on the good. God, you provided really good conversations today. I ask that you bless everybody that came in and had a conversation, everybody that's in the chat, that you just walk with them and show them the nature of who you are and what is true and what is moral and what is right. But if, Lord, if I'm wrong and if we're wrong, if the people who stand with me are wrong, correct us and put us back on the right path, for you are sovereign, you are king over all things, and help us recognize that. Give everybody what they desire so they can know it's not enough, and so that they need you and come to the relationship of being with you. Give us grace, forgive us of our sins, continue to walk with us. Thank you for the cross. In Jesus' name, amen. In the name of the Father, the Son, Holy Spirit. Hallelujah. How many push-ups can Jesus do? Yes. That's the answer, yes. Pick a number, the answer is yes. What's up, Visual Don? How you doing, bro? All right, guys, come hang out on YouTube. We'll do about 3-4 more minutes over there. So if you have any more questions or anything you want to say in the chat, hop over there. Links in the bio. We're going to be shutting down TikTok. Again, YouTube's my main platform, primarily where I focus on. So if you're enjoying the content, you want to see more content, make sure you hit the like, subscribe, do all those types of things. If you want to support me, support my ministry, you can do so with Super Chats. It's a great way to do it. You can also do so on Patreon if you want to be a monthly subscriber and help this channel grow. Or you could do it. We added a PayPal donation link in my bio as well. These are all great methods to help this channel grow. Like I said, we're going to be bringing Abby on this summer, so we got to pay her wages as well. So if you want to help this channel grow and become what it should be, that's how you can do it. We're also bringing on another person for 6 months that's supposedly going to help this channel. So yeah, we got bills to pay, mouths to feed. Ain't nothing in this world for free. I love you guys. God bless, and we'll see you all next time. And then there's just me and you and Abby too. And Bert. And Bert. Will Abby ever debate? She doesn't have the patience. She doesn't have the patience to debate. Not her field. She would just call people monsters and get mad at them and walk away. Thanks for your time for watching. Ask God to donate, bro. I got to feed myself. I do ask God for donations all the time, and he has provided. It's kind of funny. I pray about it, and it continues to happen, This channel is still going. So God bless the Lord, and all glory to him for everything that he's done for this channel to help it be what it needs to be. Shorts is cooked. I can't see the wife or the cat. You got to come over to the horizontal then. I also end up too emotionally charged in the debate. I end up emotionally charged too. I'm really trying to calm myself lately. Because like I every time I lose my temper, that's all I am. That's all I am. It's not your best debate they hold you to. It's your worst. Your wife would be the same as Abby. Amen. You say abortion is murder, but love the death penalty in war. Maybe you're not pro-life, just pro-punishment with a savior complex. And see, that's just where people make assumptions, right? I am pro-death penalty in war. How do you know that? Show me a clip where I've said that, right? It's like in certain scenarios, maybe. But it's like that person who came up, like, you claimed you're a fundamental Christian and that's where you get your morals from. Clearly he's never watched this channel because I'm anti-fundamental Christian. They just like to assume. You know what they say about assumptions? It makes an ass out of you and mumptions. If you rather protect a fetus than a rape victim, congrats, you've chosen hypothetical life over an actual trauma. That's not morality, that's cruelty. Well, if you rather choose ending a life than patting someone on the back who went through some trauma, that's cruelty. Cruelty. That's the word. Also, death penalty in war is not taking an innocent life. So, actually, I disagree. In war, innocent life is going to happen. It's not the goal, but like when you do war, innocent people will die. This is my first stream and it was very enjoyable compared to others that do debates. Thank you, Brian, and thanks for hanging out here. Make sure you subscribe. Came here for the wife and the cat. That's the only reason to be here. It's the only reason I'm here. It's for the wife and the cat. Ending a hypothetical life. Well, no. Scientific consensus is life starts at conception. You are ending a life. If it's not alive, what is it? Is it dead? Are all women carrying around a dead thing? Is that what's happening? Is it inanimate? Then how is it growing if it's inanimate? These are all my questions. What time am I going live tomorrow? Around noonish. We're doing a special live tomorrow. Yeah. We're doing a debate review tomorrow with the guy who did the debate. And yeah, it should be good. Should be good. Also, next week, I should be going live with Tim. And then I'm still reaching out to that guy who did who wants me to do the Shroud of Turin. So that should be happening as well in the future. So stay tuned for that, guys. John, why is there no talk about the right of the father once the child is born? Because I think the father has an obligation to raise their child as well. They also do not have the right to unalive their child or abandon it. Stream is better with Bert, prove me wrong, win cat treats. Sorry?
They're talking about why it doesn't matter if the dad wants the baby to be born and the mom doesn't.
Because it's not his body. That's our argument. Where does death begin is also an interesting question. Fair. Who is my cat's primary human? I'm the primary human. Although he's being a traitor right now.
No, I forced him to be here.
Yeah, well, yeah, he looks like he hates it. He looks like he hates it. All right, guys, I got to go pack my bag and go off to work. I love you all. Stay black and keep doing what you're doing. God bless. Have yourself a great day.